Alrighty, well, it's after 7:30, so we might as well start. So has anyone got a question from the floor? Or news?
Maybe a little later on, Harold, I'd like to sort of mention I think it was in the US where recently there was an incident with a Tesla Model 3 where this guy was driving on the freeway, I think, and one of them made a large truck actually cut him off, and the Tesla applied the brakes. I've got the video, but I don't know. I think it said, I was going to share it with you guys, but it said that the host, has disabled sharing.
Hang on, let me just re-enable that.
I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work, but yeah, he was traveling in this in the extreme left lane, and there was like a wall on the side, and this truck came from I think it was a third lane or something, came over to the second lane, and this guy was just about to overtake him when the truck actually overtook him and then cut him off. And then the Model 3 detected it, applied the brakes, and this was, I think he was just about a month in his new Model 3, and he was also excited about it, like, it's basically saved his life. And it's a lovely, it's a great video to watch, but I don't know if I'll be able to share it, but
yeah, cool.
I can give it a try. But if anyone Googles it, most probably it's on YouTube. So just say Model 3. I don't know what it's called. Have a look and get back to you while you guys.
Yeah, cool.
Chat.
Yeah. There is some pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on. Yeah, I was going to say there are some pretty spectacular videos out there, especially some of the, I think it's the NHTSA test videos of, I think it's Model 3 and possibly S and X doing the collision avoidance, where there's one where you've got it's a dummy on a push bike going across the road as
I think I've seen that. Yep.
And the one that's truly frightening is where you see, I think there's a couple of cars on the side of the road, and this pretend kid walks out in front of the Model 3, and it brakes within a couple. Well, he only sees the kid, maybe 10, not even that, 5 meters away, a car length from where the kid is, and just comes to an instant stop, which is impressive but frightening.
It's just I only hope and pray that they can get rid of all the phantom braking, though. it's happening too often for me now. I don't know what it is. I don't think it's the people say it's the shadows, but I've noticed that when there is no sun too, it tends to brake. Maybe it's seeing something which we can't see. I don't know, but
yeah. When you're trying to suss that stuff out, you should have a look at not just shadows, but also radar. So potential metal objects.
Correct. Yes.
Whether it's an overpass or something like that. Sometimes the car, I think the cars develop a whitelist, whereby if they traverse an area multiple times with a certain kind of radar signature, I think they can then detune that when the car is happy that there wasn't any, whatever it is that has been lit up isn't a real object or isn't a real threat. I think there might be like a whitelist that might develop. But
okay, is there any way of actually reporting this back to Tesla other than actually, using your brakes and then that picks it up, and hopefully they will, get the information and do what they have to do.
I think some of those emergency braking events actually do get logged, so there is scope for Tesla to look at that. Whether they do on every case or not, I guess no one knows. But they definitely do log out of parameter events. So I guess emergency braking, it may entirely be logged. It's certainly possible that they do that. You can do a bug report. So you can press on the audio button or the speaker, for doing audio commands on your
Yep.
on your steering
That's
wheel,
correct. Yes. Yeah.
and then just say the words bug report, and
Okay.
then describe what you're reporting.
Correct.
And what the car then does is it attempts to interpret what you're saying, and then it puts that as text on the screen, and then it will send it. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to there's no method of editing it, so you can't sort of look at what it interpreted and then edit it using the keyboard and then send it. It basically
That's right.
says,
Yeah.
this is what I heard you say, whether it is exactly what you said or not, and then it says, I've now sent it. So I've had a couple of cases where I've said things like, the speed limit is incorrect or whatever, and it has come out with an entirely different sentence and sent it. And I'm thinking, well, that's embarrassing because I didn't mean to say that, or I didn't say that. But
I didn't mean to swear at you, Elon, but sorry. That's what the car picked up.
yeah, exactly.
The dictation isn't good, is it?
No, it has its days. Sometimes it's completely,
It's pretty good, actually.
frequently
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
I find the commands really, really good when they work. It's very rare that it picks up something, maybe there's background noise or something. But yeah, it's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I think there's been various software revisions where I've had it where it's been brilliant for months on end, and then we've had one software update and it just goes to hell. Like it just doesn't understand anything, and then a couple of updates later it sort of comes good again and goes again. It just depends.
Yeah, it's the same thing here. I mean, I've never had an issue with phantom braking. I mean, it's not as bad. In fact, I went down the freeway the other day and somebody complained at Anchorchal, but I don't think I reached up to there. But I was making 100% sure that there was no one behind me while I was driving, and press the accelerator if it did. So
what I have noticed lately on Navigate on Autopilot is if there is, say if you're in the center lane and there's a lane to the left of you that is terminating ahead, what the car does is it looks intently to the car to your side, to the left side, and it actually lights it up white or light grey, indicating, even though it's in the left lane to you, indicating that it's keeping an eye on it and it's seeing it as a threat, because I think it's presuming it's going to then, it will have to merge. So I've actually had it where I'm in the middle lane minding my own business, wanting to do 100, but the car then slows down to meet the speed of the car next to me, even though I've got nothing to do with that car, because it somehow is thinking that it's a threat and it's kind of looking at it. So maybe some of those phantom braking things, depending on what mode you're in, might be something related to that, possibly.
Is that the feature where it puts those little arrows on that lane beside you?
No, that's different. No, that's the overspeed indicator, where if it's seeing you exceeding the speed of cars, and here it seems to be doing it mainly on the right, which is a bit weird because our overtaking lane is on the left. Sorry, is on the right, so it should be the opposite direction.
We should be on the right.
Yeah, that's different. No, what I'm referring to is you're driving along, so you've got 3 lanes. Normally the car in front of you is white because that's the car that your car is referencing to, particularly if you're going slower than the speed limit because the car in front is impeding you. But what I've found is that it'll actually keep an eye on the car on the left and light it up in white as well. So it's got the white car in front of you and the white car to the left of you. And what it seems to do is, and it's not as if that car is encroaching in your lane, it's just doing its own thing. And it seems that the car will keep looking at that car and slow down to match its speed instead of the car in front of you. And the only way I can think of it is perhaps it's thinking or presuming that that car to the left of you will need to merge into you. And it's kind of trying to back off to allow it to do that. But of course the car never does merge because the lane keeps continuing and there's no need for it. But yeah, Matt, the thing you're talking about, that is that overspeed sort of warning where it has those arrows and it's basically sort of implying that it's going to slow down because you don't want a high differential speed between lanes, because obviously someone in the slow lane might jump out and not realize you're there. But
Yeah, but this is not actually on Navigate and Autopilot. I go into the city in the mornings, and sometimes I come back in the afternoon, and it's not really sunny. So people say shade and stuff like that, shadows and whatever. So there's no shadows on the road. So and that's why I keep thinking, is it shadows or is it something else?
could be radar. It might be radar. So
yeah, it could be something it's seeing which we can't see.
yes.
Right ahead, over the hill or something. I just don't know. But yeah. So.
Has anyone noticed lately, the last update I got, a few months ago, the car used to be in the habit of moving out of the center of the lane to be away from a truck that might be overtaking you on one side, and it sort of like gives that truck a bit more space.
Yeah.
And that happened a few months ago, and then it sort of disappeared. They stopped doing that. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed
No,
that my car has come back. So now my car gives way to, sort of moves over if there's a big truck on the other side of the lane.
Yeah, I have never had that happen ever. It's something that actually annoys me, because when you're driving along on, let's say, the freeway, and you're overtaking a truck which is sort of wavering a bit, it wants to hold the middle of the bloody lane, and I think that, nah, let's move it over. I'm not going to have this.
Oh, actually, I'm the opposite. See, I find it disconcerting that suddenly my car is sort of not quite lurching, but moving across when it's perfectly happy that it should be in the center. But it seems now that, Nigel, they're actually doing your style, which is if there's a big truck to your right, it'll move to the left and vice versa.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Mine never has, ever.
Yep.
It's cool. Always maintain the middle. And sometimes I go, no, I don't like this. The truck's wavering a bit. I'll take it off autopilot and move myself, and then put it back on.
Yeah, I've basically never seen it move out of the centre line either.
Oh, right. Mine has only just done that since an update a couple of days ago.
Are you on AP1, Harold?
No, 2.
Oh, okay, because I'm on AP1, and that's, it used to happen for me too, and then it's gone away, and then it's come back. So exactly what you've got.
Right, cool. It's something that might creep into the Model 3s on the next software update.
I really like it. Yeah, it's a great feature.
Yeah, I would like it as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you would.
The only thing I found disconcerting was if sometimes it would zigzag, because there'd be, say on Tottenham Highway, there'd be a truck to your right, and then there might be one sort of slightly diagonal to your left, and then it's kind of wavering around. And
you wouldn't want it happening as you've got a bike coming up through the middle as well.
Yes, indeed.
Being a bike myself.
Yeah. Although on AP2 and above, it's got all the surround cameras, so it can see.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder if it might be something to do with that.
Cool. Anyone else, if anything that...
I actually have a question, so totally not related to autopilot or anything like that. Is there a recommendation for a company or a Sparky installing a Zappi charger in Perth? Is there anyone that people would recommend?
I've not had experience with Zappi. I mean, my presumption is any electrician can basically install it, because you really just have to fit the CTs to your, on the grid side, on the meter side, or in your meter box.
Yep.
And really, as far as any other part of the Zappi, it's just an electrical appliance. So really, any electrician, should. But if
I just wondered if there was a good supplier in Perth for one.
Yeah, anyone out there that has...
What area do you live in?
Fremantle.
My electrician up here, he just installed the Tesla wall charger 3-phase for $375. That's pretty good.
Could you send me his... Yeah, okay. Could you send me his details? If that's all right.
Sure.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, Bruce, you can just do that on chat if you like. You can just do that on the chat function, and...
Cheers, man. That'd be
either
awesome.
do it to everyone or just to Richard.
The actual reason, and this may be a useful thing. So we had solar installed and a Powerwall, but I went for a Solar Edge EV charger. So it's the inverter and the EV charger, but I mean, I made a presumption that the EV charger side worked like a Zappi, and I think it maybe that is the idea from SolarEdge that it does, but it basically hasn't worked as I hoped it to. When the car, like, it will do the scheduling fine for, like, you know, start when we get cheaper power at 9 o'clock, but it will draw it straight from the grid. It won't use the Powerwall at all. And then during the day, when I want it to use the solar, so it's supposed to use excess solar, it doesn't. And then even if I turn it on and say just charge off 5 amp, you know, 5 amps the slowest speed, it will kind of do it if it's got like more than 5 amps of solar coming off. But then if the solar drops, it will start drawing off the grid. It's just, it's like...
I did look at, that's a SolarEdge. Oh, sorry, yes, right.
Yeah, and I think the other there was something else as well, where it wasn't working as the other thing, yeah, that's it. So what it does is, because essentially it's, if you think logically through a diagram, it's at the top here, you've got the SolarEdge inverter EV charger here, then you've got the Powerwall. What it will do is the Powerwall won't see, say your car is charging, it won't see that data coming in. All it will see is a drop in solar. So like, say you're charging at 2.4 kilowatt, it will think, well, okay, you've got 3.4 kilowatt coming in off the solar. It'll only say, okay, you've only got a kilowatt of solar coming in on the Powerwall. So it's only a little thing, but it's like all the stats of my Powerwall are then out.
Oh yes.
Because it doesn't see it. It's not like a load on as the Zappi is. So yeah, essentially I made some assumptions about how it would work, and the moral of the story is get a Zappi charger.
Yeah, the Powerwall, the gateway, you've got a meter on the grid side. Do you also have separate CTs to your inverter, to your solar inverter from the Powerwall? Did they fit that?
I can't remember, to be honest, now. I'd have to take all the covers off and work it all out, which at the moment is probably a bit impractical.
Doesn't the Powerwall have a solar charge controller feature in it or not?
Yeah, so I mean, I can see all the stats. So on the Tesla app, I can see, I can see the solar. I can see what the house is using. I can see, what's gone into the Powerwall and back, and I can see what's been drawn off the grid. But yeah, if you've got the car charging through the inverter, it will see that as basically a reduced.
You'll just see it as part of the house load, right? It'll just be part of the house load.
No, it's not seeing it as a house load. It's seeing it as a reduction in.
Yes. In solar capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's coming off the solar before it goes into the Powerwall.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just interrupt here, because Harold was asking about CTs. I've got a SolarEdge inverter as well, but it's not the one that Richard's got. It's just the normal one, and that definitely has CTs in the meter box, because with SolarEdge you get an app and you can see exactly what's going in and what's going out. So the CTs are already there in the meter box from SolarEdge.
Yeah, I can see all the data on the SolarEdge inverter,
Yeah.
but now and I do that on my mum's house, which has got a version 1 Powerwall back in the UK, and that's fine because everything's then contained in that app. But the problem is with the Powerwall 2, you basically forget about looking at the SolarEdge app, and then you just look at everything on the Tesla app. So it's kind of, yeah, I can still find that data, but it's not. But then the SolarEdge app doesn't see the battery. So
yeah, you're right, because you haven't got integration between the SolarEdge and the Powerwall. The Powerwall must have CTs connected to effectively the output side or the grid side of the solar inverter. It also has a meter on the grid side, so the Powerwall knows what's coming out of your inverter and what's going in and out of your grid, so it can infer what your house loads are. But the hidden load, like you said, Richard, is at the moment your car charging, because effectively the inverter is doing it behind the meter. So yes, you're right. When your car starts charging, it'll just look like there was less solar radiation coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's really no way to fix that
No.
unless there was a high level interaction between solar edge and the Powerwall. There isn't.
And there won't be. Thank you, Tesla.
Yeah, and the only other way is if the Powerwall had the provision to have another set of CTs that you could put on the charger side of your inverter, if there was that kind of way of actually connecting it. So then the car charger connected to your inverter basically becomes another house load, or is treated like a house load, which it is. Yeah. But you'd have to connect into it. And then, of course, the presumption is that the Powerwall or the gateway can have another lot of, is it single or three phase?
Single phase.
Single phase. Sorry. If it can have another meter CT, effectively like on a separate house load, if they've got that function. If they have, you could then do it, and then it would be, then the Powerwall would report correctly.
As far as the Snappy goes, I remember the first meeting I came to, which was in Wembley, I think. There was a guy there who installed Sappies. I don't know if any of you guys, because Harold, you were definitely there, and Rob was there, and
yes, I don't remember that gentleman's name, but I do have his card somewhere, so we'll try and dig that out and have it ready for the next.
I'm interested in that too, in getting a Zappy actually. So, but I just can't find that card anymore, so I'm a bit lost.
Thanks, Stefan. Yeah, thanks for thinking of it anyway.
Cool. But yeah, Richard, that's just unfortunately you're going to get weird results.
Well, I mean, look, it's not a complete loss, because I now have, after I get the Zappy charger, then I now have two ways of charging two vehicles at 32 amp single phase, as and when there's a second one in the garage. So, you know, it's not a complete waste of, you know, the extra money that went into the inverter. So that's how I'm looking at it anyway.
Cool. I mean, the Zappy's a great piece of kit, particularly since it's automatic. And that's the trick. That's the biggest problem is you unless maybe with Tesla's new Wi-Fi enabled HPWC, but they haven't really announced that it's going to be doing that yet. You know, it would have to interact with the Powerwall because the Powerwall has a meter, so it can know what's leaving and entering the grid. And it could actually then modulate the power going into the car. Perhaps that's a TBA for Tesla.
Integration.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's probably why they did Wi-Fi integration, to do those advanced functions, but I guess they're rolling them out slowly or testing them.
Just something else, again, switching subjects, but I just thought that you guys might like. So I'm sat in the car at the moment. I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but when using camp mode in the car, have you ever seen this this camping thing that comes up after 20 minutes? I don't know whether anyone's ever noticed the Cybertruck Easter egg.
I was just going to.
It's in the background. That was a cool little thing that, I don't know whether everyone who's new to the game ever was
that is very cool, and that's a good pickup. Yeah, I've seen that. It's pretty cool. You've seen the Cybertruck. There's only one thing wrong with it, Richard.
Go on.
It hasn't got my name on it.
One day it will.
Has anyone ordered the Cybertruck as yet?
I've got a reservation, but
I ordered one.
Awesome.
I go on a daily basis. I go between it's ridiculous. I don't need it. To I only need the base model. To then screw it. I'm going to go for the full out. And then the next day I'm like, no, I don't need it. So who knows? 2 or 3 years to decide what's going to happen.
But you want it, and
we do.
It's the top model, the dearest model, will probably cost about $135 in WA on the road, delivered.
Yeah. But you've got to get the solar roof option, of course, because you can't park it in the garage. Well, I think I measured. I can just get it in here, but the Model S isn't going to go in here at the same time. So,
Well, if you want to spend, I think it's $10 on the App Store, you can download AR Cybertruck. And
oh no, I did that. Yeah, yeah. It's great.
you can walk around.
Yeah, well, I actually So here's what I did, because I'm like this. I went out to the front of the house and I set it up there on the road. I then went back in the house, went upstairs to the first floor, out onto the balcony, and then and then had it, going up and down the road in front of the house, and then videoed that, next to all the other, utes and cars and stuff that are parked there, just to it does get a really good perspective on what it actually looked like. So.
Well, I actually put mine in my garage, and it sort of just misses.
Yeah.
I figured if I've got a roller door that's internal, if I put that to the other side of the double brick wall, it will just fit.
Okay.
Or I'll do what you do, which is just park it out the front, because not even the rain would dare fall on it.
Well, exactly. It will just have an Elon shield. Probably zap it, raindrops out of the air with lasers.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
We shall see. Is anyone bored of hearing my voice yet? Because there is one more thing that's happened. That is another lesson. So I don't know what. Yeah, I think a lot of more and more people are getting Model 3s now, Model Y, so it won't be that relevant. But and it's actually I don't know whether this exists on the 3s, but on the S and on the X, the rear wheels are actually on a -2-degree camber, which means Harold, you know about this, which means that you think your tyres are actually in great shape, but they may be down to the thread on the inside. So I don't know if the 3s are set, but anyway, there's basically no way of changing it. It's a non-adjustable camber, unless you get an adjustable camber kit from K-Mac over in Queensland and have it fitted to try and level it out so that you can get like a 0 or a -1 degree. Anyway, it's basically been about 6 to 9 months of drama, and I think it's broken 3 or 4 of the kits. So eventually I had to go and fess up to James and Adam at Tesla Service and say, I think I might need your help here. So, and they're like, okay, yeah, no problem. So today, also in the middle of all this drama, I had new replacement control arms fitted, because basically there's so much torque that goes through the rear wheels that it just breaks the kits. And to be honest, the installers were pretty average as well. So yeah, the rule is don't mess with the camber adjustments.
That's a real shame, because there's nothing that upsets me more than seeing a perfectly good set of tires just shagged out on the inside.
Yeah, and it horrified me when I last had this set put on. But basically they just keep collapsing. And of course we had, hospital visits, an hour's driving, every day, and I'm just chewing through. You could smell burning rubber when I got out. The front wheels are having to counter steer the rear left that's stuffed. So it's basically stuffed, most of the tires.
You have air suspension?
Yeah.
Yeah, Harold, can I answer this?
Yes.
Go on.
Air suspension. Richard.
Hello.
Air suspension on Teslas, they're crap. All the Model 3s have got core suspension still.
And your one?
I've got core suspension. That's why I ordered core suspension all those years ago.
So you actually knew about the problem?
Yeah, I read all the American reviews from cars in 2012.
I had no idea. Yeah, right.
But basically, because it's on a low setting, it pushes suspension settings out. You see, I've got 100,000 kilometers out of a set of tires.
Wow.
Same level all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. After the Model S has been out for 8 years now, and the suspension is pretty average. The air suspension. Aftermarket people need to have a look at it.
Yeah, right.
And that is one area that the Model S could improve in.
Interesting. Okay, because I love the air suspension, because I set it on very high when I get home, so that it's it's jacked up, and then I used to set it so that it hunkered down to the road at high speed, but I don't do that anymore now. I just have it on standard.
Yeah, definitely don't do that, because that's when it's on low or very low. That's when it's at its worst. So
Yeah.
you should set the speed lowering setting to never.
Yeah, I have now. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so-
Now, Richard, obviously, you need air suspension because you've got a new baby. You've got to look after it.
Yes,
Harold?
automatic emergency braking is a great thing.
Harold, tires. I've got a question for Harold. You say you religiously rotate your tires every so many kilometers. How many kilometers do you go before you rotate them again?
Well, I do 15,000, but probably 10 is better. What do you reckon, Rob? Sort of 10, 15?
One
I do
quarter.
10.
Whatever you think your tyres are going to last for, you rotate them at 1 quarter. So if you think you're going to get 60,000, rotate them at 15. You just have to do a bit of guessing to start with.
I thought you said you got 100. That's what I want.
It depends on what roads you drive.
Oh,
Are you doing straight line driving or roundabouts?
well, up here, I suppose there are a few roundabouts. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
just normal. We live in Kalamunda, so, you know, we have to go down to Perth now and then. And every now and then I drive to Beverly, so that's pretty straight road driving, yeah.
Yeah, straight. Look, if you're living in areas where you're doing lots of roundabouts and corners like Richard in Fremantle is, your tyres are just going to go really quick. That's just the life of living in the city. But if you're doing lots of straight line driving like we do, very few corners and roundabouts. That's why we get lots of kilometres from the tyres as well.
Okay.
Rob,
Right.
can you recommend a good compound for, like, I mean, across the board for 3s, S's, X's, a particular brand or compound that, you know, we might consider?
Look, I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the Michelin tyres they're putting on now. But because you've got the 21s, you may have to look at the Continentals. Obviously, that's the choice
Yeah.
you've got. Yeah, but on the Model 3s, these guys have got Michelin 4s. They are super tyres. Really are very good tyres.
Yeah, okay.
Of course, if you go around roundabout slower, it actually lets the tyres wear less.
Yeah, but what fun is that?
Exactly.
Yeah, but then you can boot it when you've got into the straight bit.
Yeah.
The interesting
Yeah, I
thing
do
is
that
that, I was going to say, Tesla drivers, they actually think they are going roundabout slow. But because their car's got a low centre of gravity and it's very quiet, you're actually taking roundabouts far faster than you think you are. So your tyres are taking the beating.
Well, I tested that. I went back to driving my old Toyota Camry and I wondered what was wrong with it, even though I was flooring it all the time.
It's a Camry. That's what's wrong with it.
It seemed fine when they had it before, and I went back to it going, what's wrong with this petrol thing?
I now look at internal combustion engines as like something from the steam age. I get back in the work utes and go, what is this nonsense? The lever and a pedal and
Yeah. Look, I had to drive my Outlander FEV today because the Model 3's in getting wrapped and coated and what have you.
Awesome.
For 3 days. And so I had to drive the FEV and I'm going, why won't it go? Oh, hold on, I've got to put it in gear. The indicator does not put it into gear.
Well, the other problem I found as well is because I work FIFO and we don't lock anything up on site, and the car, the Tesla, you just walk, you know, away from. If I have to borrow a car or drive a fossil fuel, I forget to lock it. I come back and I'm like, oh, shit, I never locked the thing. I forgot you have to press a button or do a key.
I did that today as well.
It's worse than that because I've left the keys in the car and unlocked.
Yeah, right.
Because you just didn't think you had to do that.
I forget to lock the Mazda. I forget that it needs way more space when I pull out on another road. I forget to brake because I'm just using the accelerator all the time.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I can't drive. I just can't drive. What's wrong with me?
So does that mean that when you get your license renewal, driver's license renewal, you want to declare that you've been driving a Tesla car for more than 24 months and you've lost the knack?
This is funny, but like think about like our kids and their kids. Like you won't really need to drive, or they may not drive, or they may not get a license. Like it's going to be a new world.
I'm seeing how long we can go with my little boy not going in any fossil fuel transport. It's a little challenge, personal challenge, to see how long. I think the cat bus around Frio might derail me because that's free. So the wife will probably take him on that. But yeah, electric train into the city, and obviously the car. So yeah. But yeah, no, it's a good point. Like, yeah, it's going to be completely different.
Richard,
right,
you might have to move to Joondalup. Joondalup is getting a electric cat bus. It's a Volvo.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, as a POM, mate, I've done my time in Joondalup. Never go back.
I won't hold that against you.
No, that's interesting though. Like, yeah, I'll check that out. That's awesome. Yeah,
So,
try not to.
If I can just come back to the rotating tyres, I've got almost 10,000 on the clock, so I was thinking about it. But if I just took it down the road to the local Tyre Power or whatever, where if they jack it up, they've got to be careful. Is that right? Where they put the lifts?
Hockey pucks. I got myself a set of the hockey pucks to give to, I think it's Tyre Power Claremont that I've read seem to have done the most number of Teslas in Perth. So I'm thinking about, I've got a puncture in one of my tyres, so I'm thinking about taking it in maybe next week.
I've actually chatted to the guy there a few times because I've been playing with running nitrogen in the tyres there. The guy there is all over it. He said he's done loads of Teslas. I can't remember how much, because he did have I think what I've seemed to remember was a pretty decent price for, alignment, balancing, all of that. But he was very keen and he's never charged me for nitrogen, no matter how many times I've been there, and promised that I'll get my next set from you. But yeah, so I can really, he's a very affable guy.
I had my Model 3 done there probably 2 months ago. I did the rotate, and it was only like $70, and they did it in about 40 minutes.
Yeah, so where do you get these hockey pucks from?
I ordered mine through the official Tesla store, but it was the US one, and I just had it forwarded to me through a US forwarding address.
If you search on Amazon or eBay, there's a million of them available.
How long ago did you do that, Pete?
Tap test.
They only arrived 3-4 weeks ago, so it wasn't that long ago.
Because Martin tried to get a Model 3 fob through Tesla's US store via or through a freight forwarder, and initially they accepted the order, but then later sent him an email cancelling it because he had used a freight forwarder as the destination address. So their reasoning was, well, it's a forwarder, so we're not sending it, and they cancelled the order. So perhaps Martin was unlucky, or maybe Tesla have just recently, this is only about 3 weeks ago, Tesla have recently changed their policy for freight forwarders.
I bought some T-shirts and some short shorts last week and send them to the same address. So we'll see if I'll let you know if those come through. But I'd be pretty disappointed if I miss out on my short shorts.
Do you need the pucks if you're just using an ordinary jack on the side of the road by yourself?
You always need the pucks. Otherwise, you're going to damage the car.
The puck's really there to locate where the jacking point is, like to really make it really obvious. So they're designed to fit in just any kind of trolley jack. The head of it is about the size of a puck. So if you put the puck in the car and then align the jack to the puck, that's the right spot to actually lift it from.
So on my trolley jack, you've got like where it sits into the holder, you can actually take the split pin out, turn it upside down, put it into the middle point of where the 3 holes would be. This is at least on the S, and that gives a central point to then jack up and down from. So that's what I'll be doing in the meantime until I get the proper pucks.
Yeah, you've just got to...
places have also always got these lifters, which are basically just arms, which are flat. And you just put the puck in the hole, and that's where you tell the guy to lift the car from. I can't see that should be a problem, really.
I mean, you certainly can if it's a you know, if you've got a puncture or something like that and you've got no alternative, as long as you carefully place it where that plasticky neoprene section is, that's the most important thing. And obviously not to jack it from the battery pack, which on an S and X is actually there, exposed, whereas the 3, I think it's still there. So you've just got to make sure you avoid the battery pack and just put your jack where those 2 holes are, where the puck would go, if you don't have a puck. But you can obviously use a block of wood or something like that, that's flatter and sitting up against that neoprene rubbery mount.
As for getting those pucks, I'm pretty sure I ordered them from somewhere which was here in Australia. I mean, there are sources here in Australia where you can order all sorts of accessories for the Model 3 from. And that's where I got the pucks and the scissor jack. Just have a look on the net.
You can get them from Tesseries or anywhere on eBay. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of places for Tesla accessories.
Is it better to have them in case you break down far from effectively tyre power Claremont?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you should always have them in the car. I mean, my jack and the pucks are always in the car. Yeah, because you never know when you. Because I would never lift that thing without the pucks. I think that's dangerous. Damage the battery.
Oh, tap test.
Someone should do a group buy and get it cheaper or something. We did that with the floor mats, didn't we?
Well, it's something we could certainly do. We'd have to sort of get a quorum of people, you know, who might want one and how many, whether you want the whole set of 4, or if you're just intending on repairing a flat tire, you really only need 1, unless you're going to a tire place that, you know, you think might not have proper mounts themselves. So that's something we definitely look at.
They do those group deals, so it might just be cheap enough for everyone to get a set once we get a big enough group.
Yep. Well, what I can actually do is send an email out to see what sort of expression of interest there is and have a look at that.
Yeah, that'll be a good idea, Harold.
Yeah, and 3-phase adapter while you're at it.
Yes, I'm actually working on something else at the moment, Peter. But yes, that's coming as well. Now, speaking of adapters, Christopher asked about that adapter, that 3-phase to UMC2 adapter, which basically, yes, Christopher, it does plug it. The other end of it fits into your UMC. Yeah. So that's what it has. And then the other end has the Clipsal 32 amp. This is a NEMA 1450, but the one we have has the Clipsal here, and then that just plugs straight into your UMC. That's in your Model 3.
Yep. And then I didn't understand. I couldn't answer Matt's question of whether it was version 1 or version 2, and does that matter?
No. So all of the Model 3 UMCs are known as the Gen 2 UMC. You can actually see in this connector, you've got vice versa, that's active and that's neutral. What they actually had designed was this vacant connector here and that one there was L2 and L3 for 3-phase. But for some reason, Tesla decided against following through with that. So if you look inside your UMC, you'll see where the female version of these two connectors, there is no metal, so there's no conductor there. So the UMC is incapable of passing 3-phase. So it's only single phase. So you can, with this adapter, our 32 amp adapter, you can pass 32 amps single phase from a 32 amp 3-phase Clipsal socket.
Yeah, so the car only do 16, right?
No.
It'll do 32 amps on a single phase.
It'll pass 32 amps single phase through your UMC. through your generation 2 UMC.
Yeah, but isn't the car limited to 16?
No. If the car is drawing 3-phase from a Type 2 connector of any sort, so whether that's a generation 1 UMC or you go to a Schneider EVSE with your Type 2 to Type 2 cable, because you're 11 kilowatts, basically you're limited to 11 kilowatts in the Model 3. So you will draw 16 amps 3-phase, or you can draw 32 amps single phase. Now 32 amps single phase is 7.2-ish kilowatts. But yeah, the 16 amp limit is only referring to 3-phase, not to single phase. So 3-phase is 16 amps limit per phase. Single phase, you're limited to 32 amps.
Okay.
So for instance,
apparently it can even do 48 amps on single phase, but we don't have those HPWCs in Australia. That's just to melt your brain. You won't ever see that here, but it can be done.
I did hear about that. Yeah, well, I thought that was only with some of the earlier cars, though, earlier than what we had.
That's the American connector, not the CCS2.
Yeah,
It's got nothing to do with CCS2.
No,
Just it's the charger on board. The charger on board is divided into 3 modules, and each will do 16 amps each. And when you connect a single phase connection, it will open these switches to use one or more of them in parallel. So on a single phase with 48 amps, it will connect all 3 in parallel, even though it's single phase.
I'm not entirely certain that's quite correct, Matt. The only reason for thinking that is the American onboard chargers. You're right. There are 3 switch mode supplies, but I think in the American version they only have 2 of those 3 fitted.
That is only in the early ones. In the newer ones, the PCS has all 3.
Okay, because don't forget, in America they've got split phase, so they've got 120 volts, 180 degrees out of phase. So in fact,
that's why they need to have a lot more amps.
Yeah, on this NEMA 1450, you've got earth here, you've got, let's call it L1, L2, and neutral.
Yeah.
So that's 120 volts with respect to neutral, and that one is 120 volts there, and these 220s are 180 degrees out of phase. So when you connect, if you effectively call this effectively neutral and that active, that becomes 240 volts. So I'm not sure about, you're right, there are 2 different versions of the charger, but I don't know that we've got European spec cars which are intended for 3-phase. I'm not sure if there's the relay contacts that can divert the single phase to 2 or 3 of the charge of the switch modes.
Already happens. That already happens in Australia, because at home on a single phase of a 32 amp circuit, it's using 2 of those modules instead of 1.
Right, but it's not using 3.
No, but the point is it can. Yeah.
But
we don't have a product. We don't have a product that would utilize that, so it doesn't really matter.
No, that's right.
I was just making trouble.
Yeah, why not?
That is actually really interesting though. So if there was a 48 amp charger,
single phase,
we would be able to.
You could get 11.6 kilowatts out of the onboard PCS. Yeah. Theoretically.
Yeah.
And providing the Type 2 cable had its resistor value set to indicate that it could.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. There's no charger. There's no product that does that. It would have to send the right negotiation signal. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, actually,
make a lot of sense.
The tritium.
Sorry,
go, Richard. No, you go, Richard.
No, it was more of a, because you think, if you are charging on 16 amp 3-phase, there's your 48 amps.
Yes. Yeah,
so,
but it's spread over the 3 switch modes.
Spread over those 3, but yes, it does make sense.
And just to complicate things further, the car doesn't actually care that it's 3-phase. You can actually feed it with 2 lots of the same phase to two different pins.
Yeah, right.
But what it does do is it actually does check the phasing, which is something that apparently the early Zoes didn't do. So in a Renault Zoe, if you fed it with 3 lots of single phase,
they've got 22 kilowatt.
It would take 32 amps.
Yeah.
On every phase input. But the problem is, if all of those inputs were in phase, you'd multiply that by 3 and pass that current through the neutral, and you'd basically melt the neutral cable.
Blow the
It
car.
literally would, and it would literally melt the cable because it would be passing 96 amps. Through a 32 amp cable. So what the Tesla does, and I have tested this, is you can feed 2 lots of 15 amps in phase to 2 of the type 2 inputs, so the L1 and L2, but that's okay because there's only 30 amps passing back into the neutral. You can also feed it with 2 phases. So if you've got 3 phase and there's only 2 connections or 2 actives present, it'll still work.
But you're managing the fire risk yourself.
No, there's no. If you're partially doing 3 phase, there's no fire risk. What happens?
I provided the conductors are the right gauge. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. So if it's a standard connector and you just disconnect L3, then there will be some current passing through neutral, which is a combination of phases 1 and 2. If it's fully balanced, there'll be 0 current, and in fact 0 voltage. So a fully balanced setup, neutral will have no current flowing through it, which is the magic of 3 phase. But yeah, speaking of that current, I mean that in the US they're annoyed that the cars no longer do 72 amps. I think they used to.
Yeah, 72 is the figure I had in my head. Yeah, that was on the early ones, wasn't it?
But that's now gone with these new versions of the charger that we had.
Was that on the SNX with the dual chargers?
No, that was the. I think that was the old-fashioned charger that could take the whole 72, but the new ones are only limited to 48. So they've kind of lost something now with the newer cars that they can never get back again.
While we're on the subject of charging, just to throw another spanner in the works, I'm not sure if anyone's noticed, but the power is underreported when you're charging DC on a Model 3 currently with the current software. And this doesn't happen on AC. And my theory is that there's a different current sensor and a different set of messages being pushed onto the CAN from the PCS versus the current center that engages when the contactor connects the DC directly to the pack. And so the testing that John Edwards and I have been doing seems to prove, and we've done this with point-in-time calculations based on the time estimate and clamping certain charges, that the power value that you see on your app or on the screen is underreported throughout the charge curve. As it gets closer to 80% state of charge, it gets the distance is less, so it approaches, the error becomes less. But at the beginning, when the battery is a very low state of charge, it's underreporting, and that's why people complain about the supercharger doesn't seem to be delivering enough power, or the 50 kilowatt V fuels. They're like, why is it like so far away from 48 or 49 kilowatts when I'm at a very low state of charge? And we think it's a software issue, and I'm attempting to get enough data to report it to Tesla so that they can correct it.
What should the Model 3 Standard Range Plus charge at on, say, the Tesla superchargers down at Eton, if it was down at, let's say, 20%?
It should get the maximum 120 kilowatts.
Yeah, because I've never reached anywhere near that.
Yeah,
and
me
last
neither.
time I was there, it was 44 and 47 on the 2 occasions.
Okay, if it's very low, that's because you haven't used the navigation, which has triggered the preconditioning.
I used the navigation and it was preconditioned both times. I've only used it 4 times and I got higher the first 2, but not the last 2.
I mean, it's possible it's the supercharger. Maybe the high voltage equipment isn't able to supply that current for some reason that we can't explain. I've also noticed that. I've been the only one there, and it's like low state of charge, only one there. I know it's underreporting, but I'm like at 11%, so it should be way more than this, and it's just low, so can't explain it.
Yeah, I was the only one there both times the last time.
So I've got a screenshot from when I intentionally went down to charge the battery from a fairly low state of charge at the supercharger, and I've got 133 kilowatts out of it. That was the peak value I got. So I think the chargers are 135 capable, and yeah, I've got screenshots showing 133. So that's with a Model 3 SR Plus.
Really?
I've had 100. I've had over 130 as well. What happened was
that
the superchargers were originally 120 kilowatts. Then they said 150.
Yeah, I heard
now
that
they
150.
say 125, but they actually provide more than that. So it's been mislabeled on the map.
So maybe it can do 150 then, theoretically.
Don't know about the full 150, but it definitely would do a good 135 at least.
Which I'm claiming is less than it actually is because of this underreporting problem.
Yeah, how long ago did that pop up?
We think it's somewhere in the software since the beginning of the year, if not a little bit before, because we've found reports that don't seem to indicate this happening kind of mid last year. So we think it's entirely software related. It's a calibration to the value coming off the current sensors.
Yeah, that's strange.
It is weird. But yeah, we've reproduced it on so many different chargers. I mean, like the golden egg would be to clamp the supercharger, but that's never going to happen.
Just a matter of effort.
Unless you want to die or get arrested.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen plenty of photos of these stalls pulled apart. So there's a lot going on inside, but it can be done. But I guess really it'll probably get fixed up on one of the next software updates, as Tesla do.
We hope so.
Can I change the subject and ask a question of Matt? Matt, I noticed on the Slack channel earlier today, I read the article that you posted up from the West.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so you and Josh rent out your Model 3s through EV, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
So question I had, I've been a little bit reluctant with the Tesla, so I've been dipping my toe in, or thinking about dipping my toe in just with we've got a third car, we've got two EVs, but then we've got a third car which just sits around pulling the caravan. So I thought I'd rent that one out instead of it just sitting in the shed. The question that I asked, this was with Car Next Door. And the question that I asked them is, what happens if, something goes wrong? How does that work with the insurance? So I rang RAC, and RAC have told me that if I rent my car out to someone through a platform like that, it null and voids the whole policy. And It's not just while it's being rented out through the platform, it's even if I've rented out for 5 minutes 6 months ago and now I have an accident with it personally, it just null and voids the whole policy.
Yep, that's entirely what I would expect.
Yeah, and not everyone does it that way, but that's just RAC's take on things. But my question for Car Next Door, so they said, look, we've got other policies that we can recommend. My question to them was, well, what happens is, let's say someone rents out the vehicle. Yes, they're covered, but let's say that person is over the limit, or that person lends the keys or the card or the fob to someone else, and there's a third driver that drives the car. The policy presumably wouldn't cover them. So what then happens, with your car?
You're in trouble.
So I can't speak to other. What was that?
Actually, yeah, I'm renting my car. I just got my first custom coming up in a couple of weeks through EV. I've had to cancel my RAC insurance and take out
So
their
Bruce,
insurance.
so Bruce, you went with Ensure, the same one that Slava gets everyone set up on?
Yeah, the one that EV recommends. Yeah, Ensure. That's right. It's about $3,000.
Yep. Yeah, so that's all I can speak to. I can't speak to other insurers, but from speaking to Slava and Ensure at great length, and I have all of these concerns, and I think of new concerns every week, so I continue to ask him. There isn't a policy that is designed for this at small scale. That's why the insurance is so expensive, like Bruce said. So Slava has negotiated over many years a product that is custom to EV, and Ensure were one of the only people willing to do it because normally it's done at scale for corporates, right? And so when he's only got like 10, 15, 20 or 50 cars, it's like, it's not worth it, and it'd just be prohibitively expensive. And to be clear with you, because EV's been around for 3 or 4 years, two years ago, it was about 5 or 6 grand. So what Slava does is he offsets that in a number of ways. He has a $35 insurance premium per day that comes off the car rental. And that, in combination with the moderately high but not crazy premium for the owner, like Bruce said, is what enables that deal to go through. And so that's a special hybrid product. So for me paying that insurance and for that fee coming off my rental amount each day, that $35 or $37, depending on the model, that covers the renter while they're renting it, and there's a large excess for that. And it covers me as a private driver when I drive it, and there's a smaller excess for me as the owner. I still can't let anyone drive it. It's not like my SGO policy with my regular cars. I can't let my sister or my brother or my girlfriend drive it. That's just not going to fly. It means that any renter has to be 25 years and over, and I've had, students ask to rent the car, and I had to turn them away. Funny story though. I had a 16-year-old rent it the other day, and he got his gran, to drive him around, and yeah, they had a fun time. So, with regards to things going wrong, I clarified this only last week. If it's recoverable, this is a term, insurance term. If it's recoverable because the other owner has an insurance policy, then the risk is pretty low. If it's not recoverable, they will still pay it out because that's what the insurance product is guaranteed. But in order to manage the recoverability of a claim, Slava had to implement these features on the platform. And so he does an automated driver's license check when someone signs up before they make a booking. And all that does is validate that
the license is current.
It validates that their license is current, which gives the insurer some degree of confidence about whether or not there's probably another policy hidden somewhere. They can't validate that completely, but having a current license gives them a strong degree of confidence that there is another policy somewhere that they can recover it from. So that's how they manage the risk.
But the elephant in the room is, let's say someone hires your car and either they get drunk or one of their friends gets drunk, and while it's being rented out to someone, it's driven by someone who's drunk and smashes the car and writes it off. Then what happens?
So they do it. No, it's covered. Like, it's still covered. Like, I'm covered. What they do in addition to these other things is they take a large pre-authorization on the credit card, which gives them a bit of security about getting some of the excess or claim back. I know when I rented Joshua's one last year, it was about $2,000. I think it may be less now, but like, some people balk at that. And all I tell them is it's a pre-auth, right? So it will appear as a debt on your card, and then a few days later it will be released. So
when you say it's covered, so okay, here's a scenario. I rent your car.
Mm-hmm.
I have no money. I get pissed. I smash your car. I write it off amongst other cars. that your insurance company will sue me personally, and I have zero assets, and I'm not
Yeah.
covered.
So in that case, the best thing that the insurance company can do is recover the pre-auth amount and potentially a little bit more off your credit card that you used, and probably no more.
Right. And
But even though
are you covered?
even though
Do you get a new
I'm
card?
covered, yes, I still get a new car.
Okay,
even
right,
though
cool,
even though the insurer can't recover
yes,
all of the value,
Yep.
I'm still covered. They are screwed in that case. So that's
No, I
why,
don't care about. No. The point is,
yeah,
if you rent your car to me, you don't care what my fate is. The only thing that matters to you is if I get pissed and drive your car and smash it, do you get that car replaced by your insurer?
Yep.
And is the answer yes?
Yes, the answer is
yes.
yes.
Okay, yeah, cool. Okay, great. Okay. And that's the most critical thing, because regardless of, people have, well, they don't call them accidents, they call them crashes, but, because by definition, nothing is kind of accidental, but it can happen out of the blue. That's fine. The biggest issue is when the driver by definition is uninsurable, a la no license, or drunk, or drugged, or deliberate. What you don't want to have to do is try and then your insurer to say, no, bar Lees, this is not covered. You're going to have to civilly take them to court and try and get money out of them. So as long as
So worst case scenario, when it's like a drunken friend without a license and insurance of the renter, I still get a new car. The insurer can recover some of the money from the credit card of the renter, and the drunk guy, well, he gets off scot-free, and the insurance company is kind of up for a lot of money.
Yeah, cool.
That's quite different from Car Next Door, because they are specific, because I pushed them on this. Essentially, initially they said, yes, you'll be covered, you get a new car. And then I pushed them on it a little bit further. And then then the guy put me on hold, went and asked his manager, and came back and said, no, I can confirm you would not be covered in that instance. So but basically, but he said, look, it's very rare. And I said, well, that's what insurance is for. But he said you wouldn't be covered because the renter has broken the agreement. So the policy covers the renter, but it doesn't cover the renter's friend, and doesn't cover the renter if he's pissed. It doesn't cover, as you said, Harold, if it's deliberate, or which.
It's a bad policy, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I went through those questions with EV, and they said I'm covered regardless because it's unforeseen on my behalf. Also, you need to be a member of EV on their platform to rent the car in the first place, and they go through a vetting process to make sure that you're eligible.
Yeah, the product and its conditions. Sorry, go on, Bruce.
You have veto right as well on the day that you go to hand the car over. If you're not satisfied and not happy, you don't have to give it to them.
Okay.
Yeah, the special product that Slav has negotiated is highly coupled to the correct use of the platform. And that makes sense because the insurer is trying to minimize their risk with the platform.
Cool.
Like if I wanted to let my dad drive it for free, I could reduce my price to $0, and he'd have to pay the minimum $35 each day, and then I'd let him drive it, because if for some strange reason something went wrong, I just wouldn't be covered. So you'd have to still book it through the platform.
Yeah, one of the great things about the RAC policy is that any driver's covered at the moment. So, and I do that fairly often, even, even not fairly often, but I do it often enough to make use of that feature. I'll meet people in the shopping centre who are curious about the car, and I'll take them for a drive. And what I'll do is I'll use the screen on the Model 3, and I've got a shortcut to the DOT website, and they put their driver's license details in there just to make sure that their driver's license is current at the time, and then I'll let them drive the car. So, but yeah, that's
which is fine for friends and strangers, right? Because that's what their policy covers. But if they found out that you'd been renting it formally and making money, they would instantly refuse the claim.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and cancel your policy.
Yeah. No, that's interesting that you guys, yeah, that's sounds like it's a great product.
Oh, it's an experiment for me. I'm trying to pay for my car with using it, so we'll see how that goes.
That's actually my plan for justifying the Cybertruck as well. Actually, so it is interesting.
The Cybertruck is already on the platform. You can pre-book to rent it for $500 a day.
Brilliant.
Yeah, there's some guy over east who's got a order, and so he's trying to guess the date. If you click through the calendar on the booking and go like 2.5 years in advance, you see the date become available. He was just guessing.
2.5 years, yeah, that's fairly realistic, I would say, or maybe a little bit optimistic. Who knows?
Who knows? Are you on time, right?
Yeah.
I have a question for Matt about this policy. Just when you were saying that you only you can drive the car, like not your girlfriend, like what if you can you have 2 named drivers on the car as well as have it as a rental with the EV insurance?
I haven't asked. Oh,
Okay.
you can, Bruce, is that right?
Yeah, I've got two drivers listed on mine.
Okay.
There you go.
Myself and my wife, yeah.
So as long as the driver's listed, then they're covered.
I think, well, from what I read, I thought other people were covered providing they were over the age of 25 and whatever. Anyway, I think it might have been bigger excess, but I'd have to look deeper into that one.
No, it would just be 2 of us anyway. It was just I just thought that was a bit of a strange one where you said that, you know, you couldn't lend it to your dad or anything without doing it, you know, as a rental for zero.
Yeah, maybe if I called them up and had him named on a case-by-case basis, it might be okay. But they'd probably have to do a bit of a qualification for him.
Yeah,
you know, just ask him about his history and things like that.
Yeah, because this would be regular because it's our only car, so we both are named drivers on it. Not this one, obviously.
Another 10 years before this one's driving or being driven, as I hope they would be.
Yeah, probably the latter.
Yeah.
From what I read, there was a whole list of things you had to like vet them before you let them drive it, and they couldn't have had a drink driving conviction, couldn't have had their license suspended or more than 2 traffic infringements. There was a whole list of different things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's very thorough. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they passed all those things, then yeah, you could let them drive it. But if they didn't, then you're not covered if you get handed it out.
Is that an honour system check, or is there actually some kind of check against records? Are they just ticking a thing saying no, no, no?
That part of it is an honour system. Yeah.
Which they will check if you have a crash.
Yeah.
Always. It's always after the event.
Mm.
I have a completely unrelated question to either technical charging or insurance questions, but nonetheless still important at the moment because windscreen wipers are playing up in that, and I don't know if it's because of the Model 3 wipers are different to other ones or whatever, but on the upswing it's fine. On the backswing they seem to just leave streaks. Has anyone else have that issue, and if so, does anyone know how to get? Is it an issue with the blades, the screen? Like, is there a cleaning method that works?
Are you using any product in the wiper fluid?
I haven't. I've filled it up a few times since I got it. I haven't topped it up with any additive since then, though.
Yeah.
How about
they said
Rain-X?
don't put additive on it, that was all.
Yeah. The super concentrated blue stuff it came with is definitely used up by now.
Yeah. What about Rain-X?
I haven't done any
okay,
coatings
yeah,
or anything. Yeah.
So if you got streaks, it means it's actually skipping on the downstroke.
Yeah, but it seems to be only on the driver's side. The passenger seems to be fine. But I obviously don't look through the passenger side much.
And you're only using fresh water in your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
how long have you had it, and do you park it outside?
Since October, and I park it outside during the day at work, but at night it's in a carport.
Yeah, I find that rubber can deteriorate pretty quick. Yeah.
I mean, rule
They
of
got
thumb is
caught on a
changing
leak or
every
something
year,
like that.
but
Actually, it's funny. I haven't changed my wipers since I bought the car, and I received it in March 2017.
yeah, see, there's some people who said that, but they've had them last for ages.
Yeah.
Can you swap the left and the right ones and see if the dirt moves?
They're different sizes, I think, like lengths.
Yeah, they are different size. The driver
are they?
one's much bigger. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, pardon me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of cars are like that, man.
What about a bit of detergent in the water? Does that? Have you tried that perhaps?
In the washer fluid?
Yes.
No, I haven't tried that. It came with the whatever the super concentrated blue
Yeah, but that's
stuff
all
was.
gone now because you've obviously
Yeah.
refilled it several times.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe try a little bit of detergent, and it can even be dishwashing liquid. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. But just a little bit might make that difference. There might be just that film of something on it, perhaps.
Yeah.
Have you cleaned the blade?
I've tried that a few times, yeah, and doesn't seem to make a huge difference.
Don't know.
Try a new blade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do the Model 3s have the, does the water come through the blade or is it on a separate squirter? Onto the blade?
It's on the arm, yeah.
It's on the blade, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Right, so the water, so the water comes from the blade itself. So there's no, it doesn't spray onto the windscreen like the Model S does. Right, okay, cool.
Yeah, I thought it was broken when I first did it because nothing happened. But then I'm like, oh, okay, there is actually liquid coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It saves, obviously, it's a water saving effort because you don't waste it.
Yeah.
You don't spray the people behind you at the traffic lights.
Yeah, but that's fun.
Can I
I have
digress?
a related question to that. Sorry that it's come up. We've had the notification come up that we have to replace our windscreen washer fluid, and we've never done that before because we've always had a car that needed service and it always got done. Is there anything special you need to buy? We've never bought windscreen washer fluid. Is it something you buy, or I just heard you saying you just put water in?
You can just use plain water. I mean, I personally use distilled water because it doesn't leave streaks, but that's because I've got a condensing clothes dryer. So we make tons of liters of it every week, but you can just use plain water if you want, or you can go to Super Cheap and get
concentrated Windex.
Concentrate, yeah, and it's really just detergent anyway. So it's up to you.
I never thought of distilled water. I work in a lab. I can get constant supply of it.
Well, the cool thing about distilled water is it doesn't leave streaks.
Yeah, and it would actually take off surface contamination better than normal water.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll try and find some distilled water then.
You can buy
that
distilled
sounds
water
harder than finding windscreen washer fluid.
No, it's cheap bottles.
You buy 5 litre jugs from Coles and Woolies.
Cool. Thank you.
I attached the manual and a screenshot to the chat. They don't say that you can't use like soapy fluids, but they recommend ones with low VOCs. So I guess
that's volatile organic compound.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell.
You know why?
Turn
Because
a bottle around.
No. You see, it's because they're used to the northern winters, and some of the antifreeze stuff is there's some that contain alcohol and other substances, ethylene glycol and things like that.
It's probably to save the rubber, because if you've got
we should be fine.
Anything
in
solvents
Australia.
or anything in
Yes, it's not relevant to us whatsoever. I mean, in Europe, in some places, the actual windscreen thing has got no water in it. It's actually all glycol or whatever, because it's literally 20 degrees below zero. And ordinary water just freezes. But yeah, I dare say, Matt, that's probably what they're referring to with the VOCs.
So what was that Rain-X you were talking about, Harold?
The Rain-X?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, it's actually funny. I mean, I use Rain-X on my car all the time, and that basically lets me avoid using the wipers almost ever, no matter how hard it rains. It's basically, Rain-X is mostly isopropyl alcohol, but there's a few other bits of secret sauce that's in it. And it's just miraculous. You basically wipe it on with a tissue, and you sort of rub it in, and it sort of goes like a milky sort of color. And then if you just pour water over it or rain, it then goes clear. It's sort of that little film disappears, and the water just beads. It doesn't stick to the glass at all. So when you're just driving along, as long as you're doing more than about 50 k's an hour, the beads of water just crawl up your windscreen and just disappear.
Okay.
But one symptom I've had in previous cars, like some Fords I've had, is it can seem to make certain wiper blades skip just because of the different nature of it. But in my car, I haven't found that to be the case at all. But that's why I asked before whether there was Rain-X on the windscreen, because that could be an explanation as to why it might be skipping. But the only thing with Rain-X is because you don't use your wipers. So if you do use your wipers, it accelerates the removal of it. So then you'll find you have to reapply it, you know, once a week or once every couple of weeks. If you don't use your wipers at all, then you can get a bit of a build-up on your windscreen of, I guess it's kind of dirt or dust or whatever, grime. So every now and then you've got to relent and use your wipers. But it's a magic. It's a great thing. You know, when we went to that Lancelin road trip and it was pouring down with rain, I didn't use the wipers once at all, ever.
Have you put it on the roof so it stops the water spots from forming?
Yeah, well, on the X, it's pretty high, so I don't bother. I just sort of go, and because I've got a ridiculously large windscreen, I just sort of cover up to where the cameras are and then don't bother about the rest. But yeah, you can put it on any glass. I do believe that they even apparently you can buy it as an additive to your washer fluid, or there's a Rain-X washer fluid, but I don't think it's particularly effective. It's not cheap. It's about $20 odd for a small bottle, but then again, it goes a long way.
I think Elon actually recommended using, I'm not sure if it was Rain-X or some other hydrophobic liquid for the cameras. So if they get...
Yes, indeed, yes.
Yeah.
That works actually really, really well. The pro tip, like I said, is when you put it on raw, it sort of goes like there's a slight milky sheen to it, which you can either buff off, but that rubs it off. But if you just splash a bit of water on it, preferably distilled water, it then goes completely clear. And you're right, Pete. It then, the slightest bit of wind or air or whatever will just blow a water droplet off. And yeah, it's magical stuff. And like I said, if you've got some isopropyl, it works almost as well, because that's mostly what Rain-X is. But I think they have a few bits of secret sauce that makes it a little bit better. But isopropyl will actually work as well. But you can use it on any bit of glass, and yeah, it works really well.
So you're saying just wiping isopropyl alcohol on the glass?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, because Rain-X is basically mostly isopropyl with a little bit of some other compounds in it to probably extend its life. But isopropyl...
I would think the thing that's actually doing the action on the glass is not the isopropyl alcohol, it's the other stuff, because the IPA is probably just there as a solvent to then evaporate off after application.
I'm not even entirely certain. I would have thought that the isopropyl should just literally evaporate to nothingness.
It will.
But yeah, I don't know the answer to that. You could be right. Maybe it's just a carrier for the 1% of active ingredient. I don't know. But like I said, Rain-X, when you've used it once, you'll just, it's just the best thing. It really is.
We've all been using a lot of IPA lately in the hand sanitizers.
Yeah, well,
that's the main active ingredient in a lot of them.
I bought a 20-litre drum, and we're only about a third the way through. Back in March, before they all got sold out, because it makes an awesome hand sanitizer.
RS Components had my 20-litre drum on back order for months. I ended up cancelling.
Yes, I bought, because I'm in the electronics game, I bought it from Alltronics, and about 2 weeks later they ran out.
we're a laboratory, so we buy chemicals all the time, and even we struggle to get it.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Luckily now it's no doubt in great supply.
mm.
Cool.
Can we go back to talking about tyres, please?
Yes.
In particular, road noise. Is that a problem with all Teslas or just the threes?
All Teslas. I've got an X, and you'd possibly think that the X would have all these sound deadening and whatever, being literally the top of the Wazza car. And yeah, I must admit, it's not particularly quiet. You'll also notice that you can hear other cars, even if you're stopped at lights, going past. Yeah, so the sound deadening isn't awesome on any of them.
I found a lot has to do with the road surface as well.
Oh yes,
of
course.
Yeah, there's a few brand new pieces around near my place, and when driving on them, it's so quiet that you can hear every other car around you. You know, dogs barking on the side of the road. As soon as you get off that onto the cheese grater kind of stuff, it's terrible.
I was actually surprised. I was charging today, and a lady went past the car and said to her husband, "Hey, look, that's a electric car." And I heard her as clear as day, and I just assumed that my windows were open. And I looked around, and I pulled them up, and all my windows were closed. So yeah, you're right. The Teslas don't have as much soundproofing as a standard car, by the sounds of it.
Not by a long shot, I don't think.
No,
Need to get some noise cancelling speakers inside the cars.
I dare say it's a weight saving, because the best thing you could do is put a thin layer of that tar type material on the inside of the door skins, but it's heavy.
Yeah. Or
Hey Harold, do your Model X tyres? Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, go Peter.
Which one?
Oh, sorry. Was it who said first? Was it Peter Harris? Did you say
Petrovsky?
Right.
Oh, so yeah, go Pete Petrovsky.
I know. I was just going to ask: does your Model X have the soundproofing foam in your tyres as well?
No. Actually, I'm not entirely certain because I got off-label tyres.
My S does.
Your S?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. What are they? Michelin Pilot Sport Cups. Yeah, but they do a version with the foam insert, which I wanted.
And what's it like, Richard? Do you think it's quiet?
I think my S is really quiet. Yeah. I mean, I've always got the stereo pumping, so maybe it's maybe I don't know. No, actually, in all seriousness, sometimes I do just like turning the music off and just driving along, with nothing. It's not silent, but Rob, do you use the noise cancelling foam tyres?
No. So I don't have the foam inside, but your car is quieter than mine inside. Except when you've got autopilot on, there's so many chimes and that going off. Yeah, it's like the difference I notice in your car is because you're driving around with autopilot around the 50 zones. All those chimes are going off continuously. So I sort of noticed that. Yeah.
You'd be very polite to not have mentioned it before.
Yeah. I mean, when you're on the open road, you wouldn't notice that stuff because the chimes are hardly ever going off.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out whether that is because of the air suspension, because I mean, it's one of those things that, like, if I actually just took the gamble and went for some tyres without the noise deadening to save myself some money, and then found it didn't actually make any difference anyway, I don't know, but it's a lot of money to spend on a gamble. I'm a bit overdoing that.
Your air suspension makes the car quieter, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. I've heard that foam insert to most ears is pretty marginal benefit.
Yeah.
I think maybe on the numbers, if you pull out a decibel meter, you might be a couple of decibels, but that's very subjective to our ears. So,
sure.
Certainly if there was a compelling offering that didn't have the foam and had other superior specs or price,
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to lose a lot not going the foam, to be honest.
One thing that I've always struggled to understand is it seems as though the foam doesn't get in the way of the sludge that you can put into your car as a temporary flat fix. I've always struggled to understand how the goo gets through the foam. It must somehow just, pull it out and suck it through the foam. I'm not sure, but
I guess the thing is, if you've got a leak, you've got air leaving the tire, which would be drag, and since you're rolling, it'll be dragging the goo with it. But you're right, Peter. I've never understood what the goo actually does. Like, does it react with the air and therefore solidify? Sort of like chemically react and go off, a bit like urethane or something like that. And does that make it seal up, or is it just that it's viscous and it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've never used goo in my life.
No, it's not a good idea. It buggers up everything else, but it just acts like a big balloon and gets blown into the hole and blocks it off.
Does that make can you still reuse the tire? Can you then take the goo out and repair the tire, and can it still be usable, or does it ruin the tire?
It buggers up the little pressure sensor. You got to replace that. I think you're better off using one of those ones with a little spear, and you put you pull the nail out, whatever it is, put the spear in, and then this little thing with a bit of like rubber tube, solid rubber tube stuff with a bit of glue on it. You shove it in the hole and pull the spike out and cut it off, and away you go. Or then you punch your tire up.
I had a puncture a weekend ago, not last weekend, the weekend before. I called the roadside assistance number, and 25-30 minutes later a tow truck arrived. But I've got one of those tire puncture kits, and thankfully it was on the front tire, so I was able to turn the tires towards the street, the curb, so I could get to it. I used someone to actually move it so the hole was pointing forward, and I was able to plug it, and it was perfectly fine. By the time the tow truck guy got there, I got him to look at it, and he's like, "Yep, no worries. That'll work just as good as anything." So I didn't actually take the lone tire.
How did you pump it up
back
again?
on the road? I have a little compressor, like little 12-volt plug-in compressor. But when the tow truck dude got there, he's like, "Oh, I'll pump it up with the compressor on the truck." So yeah, it was pretty hard to push the spike through the tire. You have to really give it some oomph. And to be honest, I couldn't get it through when the tow truck dude turned up. He did it for me.
Did you post this on Facebook, Andrew?
I put the thing either that or the Slack, yeah.
Oh, because I was reading about this, and I was wondering if that was you.
Yeah. And yeah, it's been plugged and hasn't had an issue. So.
No, it'll go forever.
Yeah.
The other downside.
So as long as you have that kit and a lot of muscle or a tow truck friend, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I just bought a kit from Repco the day before yesterday, and there's two. One's like a spiral skewer type thing that you can screw into the hole and to ream it in and out.
Yeah.
And then the second one
that makes it easier to actually that makes it easier to get in and cleans the hole. So it's like smooth on the inside.
Yeah.
We've actually got one of those kits as a loan from the club. So apart from having a Model 3 aero wheel, we've also got one of those tire repair kits.
Yeah, it only costs 30 odd bucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And it's got like vulcanized rubber or whatever it is, gummy rubber in it that you shove in the hole, and it works really well.
Yeah, but I didn't get a pump. I have to go back and get a pump. Repco got 20% off the RAC members for the July.
There is actually, Tesla do sell a Tesla one in a nice carry, what's the name? With I think it's got Velcro on it so that you can put in your frunk. But that's $130, and that's got the goo It's got a bottle of goo inside, as well as a compressor, 12-volt compressor. But like you say, you can get it from Repco for substantially less.
But similar to what we were saying before, I don't think that's available on the Australian site. I think
no, sorry. I'll just bring that back up again. That is,
and that'll be 130 US.
No. This is Australian.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just bring it back up. This is actually, if you go to Tesla.com.
Oh yeah, it says AU. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go to support, and then look at vehicle upgrades and accessories, that then gives you another page which you can get your different models. Unlike most of the other Tesla sites around the world, it's not a shop, it's just a PDF. And this shows what Tesla has available in Australia. So that's Model 3 upgrades and accessories. And you've got some car mats.
Shorts.
No shorts. You've got automatic garage opener. You've got various phone adapters, a front trunk carpet mat, sunshades, triangle thingy, covers, roof rack, snow chains. Very useful in Perth. Rims, the nut package for your aeros, if you take your aero caps things off, covers, and the tyre repair kit. And you got key cards, and there's a replacement of the sealant that goes into the tyre repair kit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they don't yet have the Model 3 fob. Is not yet available in Australia, although it is available in Great Britain, Germany, the US, and Hong Kong.
Maybe it's a frequency thing.
No,
it's not.
No, because I think, well, apart from the answer is no, because Europe has a similar frequency regime as Australia. Well, it's overlapping. I think the Model 3 fob uses Bluetooth as the transmission medium, as opposed to the S's and X's, which I think are 915 or 868 megahertz or something along those lines. I think the Model 3 one actually uses Bluetooth, which is worldwide. Well, Bluetooth is a worldwide spectrum. It's 2.4 gig, which is worldwide and unlicensed. No, it's just a logistics thing that Tesla haven't gotten around to addressing yet.
They haven't trained their Australian guys how to click a couple of buttons on the software, on the computer program.
Yeah, the fob weighs 30 grams, so it's not an onerous thing to have shipped over.
Harold, I've got a question. You just mentioned the garage opening kit.
Yes.
Now, I heard a rumor once that the people who reserved a Tesla back in 2016, at that stage, those garage opening kits were included in the Tesla.
That's correct.
It's not the reserving, it's if you ordered before the 1st of July last year. Because I ordered on the 4th of June, I think it was. And I got an SR Plus, and I got it installed 2 months ago.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I see. So,
but it won't. Just so you know, it's tuned to the American frequencies, and I think most of the automatic garage doors in Australia, maybe not so much the more recent ones, but my garage door is a good 10 years old, and it's only like 1 megahertz out, but that's enough for it not to work. So I had to order, I think it cost me $50 or $60, basically a frequency adapter, which I had to wire into the garage door, and now it works fine. But just so that you're aware.
Yeah, I did the same.
So did you get yours fitted afterwards,
It came with the car. Well, it should have come with the car, but it didn't. So then they emailed me to say that as soon as it comes, they'll put it in for free. And yeah, similar, I got it put in a couple of months ago when they came.
I would have to check them when I ordered mine, because I mean, I think I ordered it fairly soon after it was possible to be ordered. So I should have got it. Is it worthwhile checking that up with Tesla in Sydney or somewhere?
Yeah, I'd send them an email.
Yeah, okay. Are they in Melbourne?
That's all I did. I just sent it to, I can find the email, but yeah, I just emailed saying, this is my purchase date. Does mine qualify? And a day later they said, yep. And then when they had it in stock in Perth, the mobile guy came out to my work and did it in the car park.
You just said purchase date. I mean, I didn't purchase it. I didn't actually pay for it.
Like the order date.
November,
So yeah, the actual order date, yeah.
The order date. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Sounds like a similar cutoff date to the premium connectivity.
Yeah,
That's the same.
It's all bound up in the same thing. Someone didn't write the correct things on the website.
I've certainly got the premium connectivity. So
yeah.
So then I should have the garage door as well, should I?
Not necessarily.
No, if you got a performance model, then you get the connectivity with it.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's my case.
It was for the entry-level models ordered before a certain date that they have to honour or grandfather the connectivity. Is that right?
Yeah.
And that's the same rule with the garage door opener.
Yeah, because I've got the standard range plus, and that came with, so now I've got the HomeLink and premium connectivity.
Cool.
So service ANZ at tesla.com is who I emailed.
Can I just jump back to charging, if you don't mind, please?
Sure.
Okay. The UMC Gen 2, on the 10 amp and the 15 amp, you don't get a full 10 amps. You only get 8 amps, and on the 15, you only get 12, I think it is.
Yes.
Now, I know that's based in the US because of the, they can't have a continuous 10 amp.
They derate by 20%.
And in Europe, I think we can get 13 amp plugs, which gives you 10 amps. Now, the plug itself has got a resistor in it, hasn't it?
No.
It's a chip, right?
Yeah, the way the original Generation 1 UMCs worked is there was a resistor in the head of the plug that would set the UMC current.
Okay.
And that was just a discrete resistor. The tails, like this one, this is a NEMA 1450. This is actually a 50 amp plug, but it passes 32 amps through it. These actually inside, in between the pins, there's actually a digital temperature sensor. It's actually a password protected one wire non-volatile memory. So it's got memory in it. Plus it also has a digital temperature sensor built in as well.
So we can flash it then?
Sorry, say again?
You can flash?
Yes, you can, if you have the password, which we don't.
Where would I?
Now, and it actually communicates through these little pins in the center. A bit hard to see in the focus. I'm just trying to get the focus to happen. It's
the same as genuine Apple chargers. They send a message.
Yes. So now you're right about what's happened is the Australian tails have been incorrectly derated from their nameplate value. So in Australia, if you have a 10 amp plug, you're entitled to draw 10 amps continuous. In other jurisdictions, that's not the case. Unfortunately, Tesla has made a mistake, and it apparently now is a homologation issue to fix it.
What does that mean?
At the moment, we've got to put up with the 10 amp providing 8 and the 15 providing 12. Tesla are aware that it's a mistake, but it's not as simple a fix as simply upping the current, because I think it has some implications to do with homologation and the way those tails have been documented or approved or registered.
Oh, they're UL listings and stuff like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I am aware that when the first Model 3s, the press versions of the Model 3s came in the middle of last year, the people whinged about it, the people testing the cars, and they did reflash those tails or the UMC or both or whatever. And those few pieces did pass 10 amps and 15 amps, but apparently Tesla can't do that for everyone's UMCs because of this issue. Now, how they resolve that, I don't know. But yeah, you're dead right, Miles. It's wrong. It needs to be. It really needs to be 10 amps and 15 because you're losing 20%. Which sadly, for the UMC, that's unless you buy an off-label a tail, 15 amps was the largest connector you can get in Australia, and you're only getting 12.
So the 32 amps will get 32 amps because obviously that's made.
Yes. So what we do is I actually cut this up, pull out the chip, the temperature sensor, reinstate it into a Clipsal plug. Obviously, get it approved by an electrician, like get it tagged and checked for safety. But then that becomes a fully functional 32 amp tail that just goes straight into your UMC, your generation 2 UMC.
Do you tape the thermocouple to the end of the wirings as well?
No, there's no point, because if you look at a 32 amp, if you look at a Clipsal plug, it's not potted. Like there's no, the only reason why this temperature sensor could work is this entire arrangement is potted. So if a pin gets hot, it transfers heat to the entire plug, and that can then be sensed as an over temperature. But if you look at a 32 amp Clipsal plug, it's a meaningless thing. If you pull 32 amps through one of those pins, it's only 32 amps through the pin. It can't overheat. It's so much larger than this thing, and this is a 50 amp plug. So you can see the actual spades are actually much less volume of material than even a simple Clipsal 32 amp 3-phase plug.
I've got one of those tails on order, and I'm so excited about trying it out.
Yeah, so cool. You do some microsurgery on there to get the sensor out, do you? If it's all potted.
It's not surgery. It's called hacksaw.
Oh.
I literally hacksaw it out and then just use a heat gun just to get the last bit and just get the 2 bits of wire to solder onto.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing gentle about it. I have considered just basically cloning the chip, but I mean, the thing is, you basically need to buy this anyway because you need to get this plug, which is non-standard. So since I've got the sensor for free buried in here, I just hacksaw it out, and it works perfectly fine.
Yep. Okay.
That's what I hear the other shop does. They just buy the European connectors and modify them unit by unit.
Yeah, and that's why they're expensive, because it is quite laborious. There's nothing fast about it. It's extremely laborious. Sorry, Andrew, say again.
How many did you just stuff up before you got the chip out?
Oh no, not one. No.
Oh really?
I was the first one took forever because I was exploring, so I didn't even know where the sensor was. Basically, it's right in the center. It's sort of right in here, and once I did it the first time, then I could work out a cut plan to make it a lot quicker, because I didn't even know what was in here at all. I didn't even know there was a digital temperature sensor. It took some I was hoping it was just a resistor, because a resistor is extraordinarily simple. But the Generation 2, they do have that protection of an overheat sensor in the actual plug, which for domestic things is quite useful in case you've got a crappy socket. But like I said, for the Clipsal 3-phase, they are, you know, one issue with the Clipsal 3-phase sockets is they're not really designed for rapid or repeated use or insertions and extractions. They're really designed that, you know, you plug a piece of, you install a piece of equipment and you plug it in, you have that ring, that locking ring, which screws in, and then you're supposed to leave it sort of forever, unless you need to replace it at, you know, years later.
Yeah, I got a socket and a plug installed in my carport, and it is a pain to pull it in and out all the time.
Everybody.
See you, Stefan.
Yeah.
Take care. Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons why Monique's and even the J1772 plugs came about, because they are zero insertion force. And that's why they're expensive, because it's not easy to have something that basically has a good electrical contact and yet has zero insertion force. In fact,
I wouldn't agree with zero, but it's lower, that's for sure.
Oh, well, very low, sorry, yeah. But you know, the Clipsal, as you see, the Clipsal ones, they have, you know, they're solid brass with just a split down the pin, and it's quite a lot of force. So that's why they've basically got proper car chargers or proper plugs and sockets specifically intended for multiple reuse and many insertions and extractions. I think the Phoenix ones, I think they're rated for at least 10,000 uses. You know, which if you did that to a Clipsal socket and plug, you would kill it well before then. In fact, I think, Rob,
Yeah.
the charger at Norseman, the 3-phase socket at Norseman is quite battered. It's quite eroded because people just inadvertently putting in the plug, you basically you're hitting the sides of the plastic bits where the hole is and just chipping it away.
So what does the heat sensor do, Harold? Does it actually shut the power down when it gets overheat, or what's the story with that?
No, it won't necessarily turn it off. If it overheats, it will reduce the current. The UMC will then reduce the current. So as to reduce the heating. Sorry?
Have you tested that? Does it actually reduce it, or does it just turn it off over a threshold?
We tested it, Harold, at Fitzroy Crossing, remember?
Yes, that's a slightly different mechanism, but that's right. It does actually work. And if you've got, actually, it's probably even on the Gen 2 UMC, there's also a temperature sensor in the actual Type 2 head. And what happened to Rob was he was in Fitzroy Crossing and he was only, what were you getting, Rob? You're only getting 10 amps or something, or not even?
Yeah, it dropped from 16 down to 13.
That's really exciting, because that then validates my like a hacking theory that I have, where you would be able to modify the UMC to do where you could create some automation to adjust the current based on a DIY solar rig. And I thought possibly that it was only the beginning of the charging negotiation that set the current.
No.
But if it's constantly sending messages over those control pins about the maximum current, then it lends itself to being modified in a way where you could customize the current limit.
No, Matt, what actually happens is that you'll notice that you've got the main AC pins and you've got the two smaller pins on your plug going into the car. And one is called the presence pilot, which has a certain resistor value tied between that pin and earth. And that tells the car what the maximum cable rating is. The current rating of the cable. Then you've got what's called the control pilot, and that basically is it's very basic technology, because they actually did it so that it could be implemented with analog electronics. It's just a 1 kilohertz square wave, and they encode the maximum current that the car is allowed to draw, not the minimum, but just the maximum, is allowed to draw by modulating the pulse width between 97% duty cycle and I think it's 8% duty cycle. So the EVSE or the UMC, so the charger, let's call it the charger, sends this signal continually that tells the car the most it can draw. Now the car can draw anything it likes as long as it's that much or less.
Inside the PCS limits,
there's various limits. There's a limit of the cable, which, well, in the UMC, the cable's fitted right to the charger, which is the UMC itself. So that's a continuous unit. But say if you go to a Type 2 charger that doesn't have a cable, it's untethered, and you bring a cable. Well, when you buy a 32 amp 3-phase cable, the resistors at each end on the presence pilot pins tell the car and the EVSE that this is a 32 amp rated cable, because you can actually buy a 16 amp rated Type 2 cable.
Oh, cool.
It's actually cheaper because there's less copper in it. But
makes sense.
But the simple resistor value will tell the car at one end that it's a 16 amp cable and tell the EVSE that it's a 16 amp cable. That's actually one reason why you'll notice that you can't use a Type 2 cable as an extension cord, because if you try and mate two of them together, male to female, they don't fully go together, because what they've deliberately done is at the male end is it's actually, the plastic is longer, so that when you put it into the female end, it doesn't mate properly and doesn't work. So that way you can't.
It's only in the car's end where it will make contact.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. So basically, yes. It's basically that the female at the EVSE, the charger, which you plug that male in, has deeper pins than the plug end and the car. They deliberately do it so you can't use them as extension cords, because what could happen is you could have a 32 amp cable and then add a 16 amp at the end of it, and the car wouldn't know, or the EVSE might not know that it's the wrong size cable, and you might be passing too much current through that extra cable. So that's the thing with all these EVSEs and car charging, is a lot of experts have gotten together to try and make it, they call it simplicity through complexity. So the actual system is quite complex, but it makes things very simple. So you can plug any cable into any EVSE, into any car, and regardless of what those different segments are, it all sorts itself out and works perfectly without failure or without overloading anything.
I wonder, Harold, if you could tell us a bit about the legacy mode in the HPWCs. Do you know much about that?
There are different versions of the HPWC. So Joseph actually knows more about this as far as the part numbers, but I think there are some HPWCs that are completely universal, so they'll work. Now, actually, in the Type 2 standard, there are two ways that you can tell the car how to charge. One is that pulse width modulated signal that I spoke about, and the other one is called the LIN protocol, which is local something network.
That's a bit more complicated, isn't it?
Well, that's actually a digital signal imposed on the control pilot, which is digital communications, and that way, that's what Tesla uses for supercharging, and also for when they want to talk exclusively to a Tesla. And you can actually, the car can actually reprogram the HPWC. So I don't know if I haven't seen it happen in Australia, but Tesla can actually upgrade the firmware of the HPWC by simply having a Tesla plug into it. And then so basically Tesla downloads firmware for the HPWC into the car, and then when the car is plugged into the HPWC, it'll then be automatically upgraded with that firmware. And it does that using this LIN protocol, which is this digital communication over the control pilot pin. So there are some HPWCs that are universal, will work basically other simple system, which will work with all EVs, type 2 EVs, or even the type 1s with a physical adapter, because it's the same standard. Yeah. There are some that, is it right, Joseph, that some have a dip switch which you could set to either effectively Tesla or universal?
Yeah, they call it legacy mode.
Yes, and then there are, I think the latest version of the HPWCs are exclusive to Tesla. They will not.
They won't let you go back into legacy.
Is that right, Joseph? Yeah, cool. Yes, yeah.
Because I noticed in the latest version of the documentation, they've removed the section that talks about the legacy mode dip switch, which is quite frustrating.
So legacy mode is basically standard.
The old PWM signal.
PWM, yes. Yeah.
And that's why the Konas and the other ones work on it, but some of the other EVs don't use the digital signal, and that's why they're incompatible.
No. Well, I don't think any of the others use it.
That's what I'm saying.
The LIN protocol. Yeah. I mean, I'm building my own EVSE, and I had actually put in the chipset for the LIN protocol.
Cool.
Thinking that I might be able to make it at least read the battery level and all that sort of stuff, but it'd take a lot of reverse engineering, and there's no value in doing it really, because your app shows it anyway. And the job of
and the Tesla's not going to send that data back out to the EVSE when it's the PCS, is it?
Not with the PWM, not the standard. No. There's no reverse communication.
No. Even with the digital stuff.
Yes, it will. No, you can't. No, it will. It does. Yes. No, it will.
Really?
The reason being because if you've got multiple HPWCs daisy chained, so say you've got a garage and you've got two HPWCs and you've only got a 16 amp 3-phase circuit, you can put them the two of them on parallel. You jump with them across with RS485 cable, and they will negotiate so that the car that is the fullest gets less current than the car that is nearly empty, so that it won't just share 50-50, it'll share maybe 65 35 or something like that.
Which like you say, it takes a dependency on the car being able to report its state of charge.
Precisely. So that's where the HPWC talks to the car and gets information back as to the state of charge. Then it can work out how to get both cars fully charged sort of at the same time, or to end at the same time. But anyway, I guess the upshot of that is, unfortunately, in Europe, it's very common to see two destination chargers with two different coloured signs. One, the classic red sign that we're used to, which says Tesla vehicle charging only, and that's in red with white writing. And then in Europe, they have a sign next to it that is a white sign with red writing, which says something like EV charging. I think, is that right, Joseph? EV vehicle or something charging, which will work on legacy mode. So Tesla actually deliberately install one exclusive HPWC for Teslas and one non-exclusive for anyone as a pair.
And so now with the version 3 and above, they are not allowing them to be compatible with other vehicles at all.
I think so, yes, at the moment. But that's not necessarily the case in Europe. It may be entirely the case that they have two different versions that they send out with probably two different serial numbers or product numbers. One being.
Does anyone know if the newer ones are missing the dip switches? I mean, for sure, the manual doesn't include the instructions, but are they missing the dip switches as well?
Physically, I don't know, but that wouldn't matter if they physically were there or not, because if they've been reprogrammed to be exclusive, they would just ignore the dip switches anyway. But Joseph, have you got audio? Can you speak to that?
Oh, yep. Basically, the one in Kojanup is part number 02 dash whatever's, and that does not work with any other non-Teslas. And basically, well, the funny thing though is that one guy called Canberra, Peter C in Canberra or something, he reckons that his Holden Volt can charge on any sort of like Tesla in New South Wales or something. I mean, Tesla destination charger in New South Wales or well, wherever he is. But in my opinion, basically, if the part number is 00 or 01, it is you don't even have to flip the dip switch, because the one up at Alkimos, I managed to charge with John's Kona. That was a few years ago now, without having fiddling around with all these dip switches and stuff. And otherwise, anyway, for 02 and 03 part numbers, those are totally locked into Teslas.
Cool. Yep.
Interesting.
So there you go, Matt.
That might suggest that that new version of the Volt is implementing the digital comms rather than the PWM stuff, potentially.
That's possible, but it wouldn't be a onerous task for Tesla to simply have like an identifier under that.
Just to be jerks if they wanted to be. Yeah, precisely. It's frustrating.
Oh, look, I guess on one level, yes, but the deal that Tesla has with the people that install it, we'll put it this way, originally destination chargers were entirely paid for and supplied by Tesla.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
So now the deal is you can still get a free destination charger, but you have to install it yourself. And I guess if Tesla is giving something for free, well, they're entitled to set the terms of that. In other words, they're entitled to say, well, this will charge Teslas, and I guess as a shareholder, I'm kind of comfortable either way. I'm magnanimous. I don't really care if other EVs do charge or can charge. I guess providing that Tesla is cool with that, since they're giving the product away for nothing. If they were charging a discount or something, then that's a different story. But you don't see Porsche or Mercedes or Jaguar handing out free chargers to hotels.
Yeah, but Porsche and Jaguar and Mercedes don't claim to have a mission statement that benefits everyone, do they?
True. Absolutely true. And like I said, in Europe, they actually do have Tesla only and anyone. The two identical looking units, and they have two signs. And I have no objection for there to be two signs, But what I do object to is I've seen photos posted on PlugShare with people with the Type 2 EVSEs, including the, let's call it legacy Tesla destination chargers, basically having a little resistor diode arrangement in a plug, which they then connect to like a power point. And I've seen photos of people boiling coffee from a car charger because they can.
What? And send us a link of that one on PlugShare. Where's that?
Oh, it's somewhere over east. Don't know if you've seen that, Joseph. Do you recall that?
So essentially, they've hacked the receptacle to let it just close the contactor, and they're using it for a regular outlet.
Yeah, it's
basically full disclosure here. I do have a when I had my iMave, I have a adapter from Gelco Services that allows you sort of like plug it in and wait for 20 seconds to do its magic voodoo, and then that allowed me to charge my iMave using a Tesla destination charger. And so so therefore what I'm trying to say is basically there is technically a solution for Konas, I believe, to sort of like fool the even the locked down Tesla chargers to charge a Kona, or basically.
But you need some other piece of equipment to do that. Is that what you're getting at?
Yep, it's a $300 sort of piece of equipment.
Yeah, I'd be charging $200 if I figured that magic out too. Sounds dodgy though.
This is this is what I was talking about before. This is actually the standard IEC 61851. This is the charging standard. So,
and this is the base protocol that works on the most wide variety of.
Yeah, this is actually the Type 2, and in fact, it's actually the J1772 standard as well. So it works on the single phase American stuff and the 3-phase rest of the world. So this here is the actual charger side, and you've basically got a 1 kilohertz signal plus or minus 12 volts. This is a typical circuit through a kilo ohm resistor, and that's the control pilot. And then this bit here is just earth. That's the earth pin, the earth wire. So the adapter that Joseph was talking about, the one that he used for his IMEO, all you need is this circuitry. And when you flick this switch, so basically you have a 2,470 ohm resistor in series with a diode, as shown. The capacity you don't really need. As soon as you short this 1,300 ohm diode in parallel with this, resistor in parallel with this resistor, that will then tell the EVSE that the car is ready to charge. And when it does, the EVSE then just closes its relay and power is available at the hot pins.
Yeah.
So
I've seen these diagrams on the CCS2 sheets as well, and it's just a very small variation in the 12-volt pilot.
Yes,
and those different voltage variations represent the different handshake steps to start.
There's no handshaking. It's just they even at the start of the standard they actually highlight that it was intentionally done this way to be super duper basic simple. That even analog electronics can, even though we're in a digital age, you can basically moderate. You can hook this up to a basic analog car charger and it will work perfectly well. It's
I'm just saying the CCS protocol has a similar simplistic negotiation step as well. There are a couple of different stages, and this is the basis behind the theory around why those old CirControl RAC ones aren't working on the Model 3, because when you engage those resistors and you're dropping that pilot voltage by a different amount, the car is looking for the changes in the pilot voltage to match certain thresholds to indicate stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and then complete the negotiation. The problem is, and this is my theory only, problem is depending on different environmental variables, the actual starting pilot voltage at the EVSE in the CirControl unit may be slightly different. And so when that handshake starts and it attempts to drop them and negotiate these different steps, and they're steps, right? Because the voltage just goes up and down. If they are outside the tolerances of the car, it will just fail. And this is the behavior that we've seen on the CirControl units. And John and others have tried to tweak the master 12-volt supply in order to ensure that it gets through more of these gates and then it starts the charging. And on the CTEX it works, but on the CirControl it doesn't. It's really a pain. And the challenge is that we could fix the CirControl unit and make it behave in a way that is acceptable to the Tesla, or the Tesla guys could just adjust their firmware and make the tolerances wider, and we'd all be good. But
that's basically correct.
I don't know if Tesla are really incentivized to do that.
No, well, I think the problem is, I dare say that Tesla is probably conforming to the proper standard. It's
More
a little
rigorously
bit
than others, do you think?
Yeah, I think the others are going, we don't care. So it's a little bit like RS-232, the old-fashioned serial communication. I think from memory, the proper signal is plus or minus 12 volts. So, and I forget which one it is. I think a plus 12 is a 0 and a minus 12 is a 1, or vice versa. But making plus and minus 12 volts from DC is difficult. You can use center tap transformers and blah, blah.
Your point is that the range is huge and the tolerances are wide.
Well, my point is that what PCs used to do 20 years ago with serial cards is not care about the minus 12 volts. They would tolerate it if you were lazy and you just have a plus 12 volt supply, and it would accept that as long as the voltage went below about 1 volt, it would call that the other state, rather than going the proper way, which is balanced, and go negative 12 volts.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So then that became like a de facto, not a stand. Well, the standard was plus or minus 12, but all the peripherals accepted anything less than 1 volt was called minus 12. It was good enough. So I think that Tesla has probably appropriately implemented the standard correctly, and that anything that's outside of the stipulation in the standard is rejected.
That's a good
point.
point.
The problem with us is that, see, the RAC highway was installed 5 years ago, almost to the day, like basically 5 years ago. And the modules that they were using in that time, even though they were cutting edge at the time, are ancient now. So the scope to fiddle is less. There is a fix coming. Yeah, we're actually working on something which hopefully can overcome this. Hopefully.
Who are you working with?
With basically with Sercontrol. So
we might as well like be transparent about this, because you know, I hope it's okay. And Joseph's going to dob me in if it's not. But the point is, like, Gemtech are working on it, and so were the other.
Everyone's look. I think it's better to leave it at. Let's just say that I'm fairly confident that we can come up with a solution. I think there's a retrofit that can be done. That
on the charger side.
Sorry, say again.
On the charger side, on the EVSE side.
It's on the charger side, because you can't rely on Tesla just deciding to open up. Well, basically rupture the standard and then make their
well, that's assuming that that's the change they need to make. And as a programmer, I would also feel bad about making my code more sloppy, or a bit less strict. But they may be able to make a change too. Like, I don't see why they shouldn't.
Well, the point is, the classic example is, look at a tritium charger, and it works on everything.
And we don't know exactly why. Maybe they've got a really good buddy at Tesla who helps them sort it out.
But anyway, the main thing is, it doesn't really matter who's running it, who's working on it, whatever. Like I say, there hopefully will be a solution in the short term, because it is absolutely tragic that you've got a dozen chargers out there that aren't compatible with the most popular EV in Western Australia.
We agree completely on that. It's silly.
Sorry, Harold, the RAC chargers, the Teslas can only use the Type 2 at 11 kilowatts at the moment, but the CCS part of it is a CCS1, and it doesn't fit in the CCS2.
Yes, there are some locations that are still currently CCS1, but they are being changed over to CCS2 plugs. The difference is principally a physical difference. It's just the mechanics of the plug. The protocols and all that is exactly the same.
Yeah, because a couple of weeks ago I was at the Bridgetown one, and I thought, let's try this, pulled it out, and I go, well, bugger, it won't fit. It's a different thing. So I had to
How many are they up to now?
2.5 hours.
How many are they up to now, Joseph? Do you know, like, how many they've got to go?
Basically, Nanup, Bridgetown, and Donnybrook. I think those are the main ones outside of the Perth. And then also the city of Swan Delta.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Is that going to get changed? Like,
yes, according to the whoever the contractor is, basically. Just to clarify, Harold, that the Bunbury, I believe, and Harvey and Dunsborough, you can use the CCS2, but you only can charge at 16 kilowatts.
Yeah, I believe it's because there's a different subboard, different card, which for some reason, and that makes it even more weird.
That's the theory.
That board works at a reduced total power rate. Now, I would actually discount that board. I would ignore it, and I would focus in on the standard, the other board, whose only issue is the voltage on the control pilot pin. that's where if you resolve that problem, then you've solved it. This thing of this other card doing this weirdness of dial down the power of the entire unit, and then it sort of works.
They don't though. Somehow they've managed to dial it down only for Tesla Model 3s.
Yep.
Because on those same chargers, we've seen non-Teslas charge at the full 50 kilowatts.
Yep.
I do not know how they've done that, and the Gemtech guys won't explain it to me.
Yeah. So, from my point of view, what I'm trying to do is just get these things running on all cars at full rate.
Of course.
There are other issues of, unfortunately, they're too closely spaced. If you look on PlugShare.
Oh, you mean like the supercharger and the Bunbury one?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that basically, if we just
Closely spaced chargers is only a problem for Teslas.
Let's get rid of Tesla. Right. Okay. So a Model 3 from Perth can go straight to Arthur River, right? So well, actually, I'll rephrase that. These chargers, like you look at Busselton, you don't need a charger in Bunbury and Busselton and Dunsborough and Margaret River.
You are if you're driving an iMove, aren't you, Joseph?
No, that's been sold.
You see, and that's the problem.
Anybody, right?
Is 5 years ago. 5 years ago, if you had the only EV in Perth was the iMove, and I think the Model S,
the Nissan Leaf.
The Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, a Gen Leaf won't go very far.
No, and there were a couple of Teslas, barely. So at the time, because don't forget, the RAC Electric Highway was groundbreaking. It was unique in the whole world. So this spacing was appropriate. But, you could basically take, and the problem is none of these stations get used much, even today, although obviously Model 3s can't use them at the moment. But what they really need to do is half of these need to be pulled out, which won't happen, but half need to be pulled out and spread out. Because then you would get the ones that didn't have their neighbours nearby, if you charge at Busselton, you're not going to charge at Dunsborough. In fact, you're probably not going to charge at Margaret River or Augusta. So by spreading it out thinly, a huge issue is vandalism and maintenance, or maintenance caused by vandalism. These chargers need to be further apart, but unfortunately they're installed. It's a big problem.
On the flip side, like we're going down to Busselton in 4 weeks' time, so it'd be great if it's fixed by then. But
the Dunsborough one works.
Yeah, okay. But so where we're staying, I won't be able to charge at the place. So having the DC charger there actually does help.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not road tripping. I'm staying in the area, so I've got range to drive 2 or 3 days worth in the Margaret River region without having to worry. But having the DC there means I don't have to spend 4 hours, sitting at the Target car park at Busselton where they've got a Tesla charger, every second day.
You want the long range one, Andrew?
Standard.
Oh, standard. Okay.
Yeah. So
we had a similar thing when we were down there. We were trickle charging overnight, but when we went to Dunsborough for dinner, I plugged it in and that topped me up. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Even at 16 kilowatts.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to plan to go to the wineries that have chargers and have lunch there each day, and that'll be fine. So
I've been down to Busselton a couple of times, and those wineries with the chargers, it's really good. They work well. They're in nice, easy to get places, and they're reasonably well spaced out as well.
Are there any other hidden gems?
They're free and they're reliable.
They're free. Every time I've been to, and I've been to most of them now, they've all worked fine.
Yeah. They're 10 times better than the RAC charger there, which you have to drive against the flow of traffic to be able to reverse to.
Oh, yeah, the Dunsborough one. That's so silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, when
I
they
haven't
replace,
used
when they
either of
replace.
sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, I was about to say, I haven't used either of the RAC chargers in Busselton or Dunsborough. I go to the Busselton Central and top up there.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning on.
It's actually frustrating too because I'll text someone on Airbnb before I book a trip, and I'll say like, is it okay if I, plug in my car? I'll reimburse you for the electricity. And the first thing they say is, oh, there's a charger in town. And I'm like, there's not.
If you want, a friend of mine owns Airbnb down in Busselton, and when I was down there staying with them, they were saying, well, how do I get a charger? What's it going to cost me? Blah, blah, blah. So I explained it all to them, and they were considering it, but they're quite happy for you to plug it into the garage power point.
Yeah, well, look, now I'm thinking what I'll do, like David Lloyd does, I'm going to buy a couple of 3-phase sockets off eBay and just carry them with me next time I go. And I'll just say, look, here, I'll give it to you. Just pay the electrician to wire in a 32 amp circuit. And then that way, those of us who've got their HPWCs with a 5-pin socket, or if you've bought one of the 5-pin pigtails for the UMC, you'll be able to get 7 kilowatts at the Airbnb. That'd be awesome. You're full every morning. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just down. Sorry, Harold.
Nigel.
I was just saying, I was down in Albany and staying at one place there, and they had a Tesla charger, but it was only 4 kilowatts because it was on a shared power thing. So it's only 4 kilowatts.
Oh, yeah.
But overnight, I got down there at about 16%, and I plugged it in, and 15 hours later, the next morning, it was back up to 90. It was fine.
Yeah, that's the thing that most people don't realize. Even the trickle charging, if you're staying more than one night, is enough.
Don't forget that you can actually apply, if you're a business, and get a HPWC for free. So
only if Tesla approve it. Like they may not approve it.
Yes, and it will depend on, I guess, literally if there are 10 HPWCs nearby, they won't. But if you're in a new area, they certainly will.
Is that program still active? Is it, Harold? I thought they closed that down now.
No, I believe so.
No, it's definitely still active. I'm doing a couple at the moment.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
In fact,
I've actually had them send a letter of intent to a place in Pinjarra and in Byford.
This is Tesla's website, and I'll just go back. This is under the charging section. Sorry, if I just do that again, charging. And when you go down to, sorry, it's already reloaded. But anyway, if you click destination charger, you can basically fill this form in. Oh, there you go, destination charging. So you click that and hit inquire. You basically have to fill out all your details. Destination charging, hit inquire. And that's the partner with Tesla. Oh, actually, that might be. No, that's an installer. Anyway, it is Tesla definitely do. They used to have a thing where you could basically click a form, but if you contact Tesla, they do actually still supply HPWCs.
Usually, what we do is we prep the location a bit, because when there's a little bit less work, Tesla are more inclined to get it done. So if you prep the location and say, look, you just got to get this done, $500-700 depending on the electrician to get the 32 amp circuit put in with a new breaker, and they're like, yeah, we're happy to do that if the unit is free, then you can forward the information to the guy in Melbourne, and I can't remember her name, but the receptionist there who's doing this job right now, she'll send the letter of intent, and when they get a response to that letter saying yes we will from the the host, they put the box in the post and they ship it to them.
Actually, sorry, I had the wrong thing. It's Charging Partners. That's where you do it. And that's basically to it. It's got the details there. Hospitality and retail, learn more, multifamily and workplace. So that's something else that some people might not realize is you can actually do it at a workplace as well. So I think you can actually, they may only need one car. So, and you can nominate.
What does that mean,
whether-
one car?
Sorry?
What does it mean, one car?
Oh, in other words, you have one employee who has a Tesla.
That's it.
Yeah.
Even in a regional area. Sorry, in a metro area.
Yes. And and what happens is it doesn't get listed as a destination charger on everyone's screens. It's as a private charger because it's a workplace. So so a
Really?
workplace is sort of, you call it unlisted,
Right.
whereas hospitality and retail, it is listed.
And that's why, yeah, okay, they have different qualification criteria. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so Tesla are still quite generous as far as that's concerned.
They're just not paying for the install. They'll still ship you the
Exactly.
item for free, though.
Precisely. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they used to pay for the install at the beginning of the program, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe that's what I got wrong. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Originally, it was they pay for the whole lot, and I think then the qualification was a bit more rigorous. Well, because they didn't want to pay for lots of charges in the same town.
Yeah.
So yeah, so definitely, Matt. Yeah, hit up any of those B&B, well, Airbnbs or motels, hotels, whatever. But I think the story still is that Tesla do expect you to provide the charging free for customers. Although there are some locations that still charge for it, a la Meriden, I think. They at the visitor centre they charge a rate per hour to use the destination charges.
It's silly to charge based on a timely, based
Yeah,
on time.
it's the Central Wheat Belt Visitor Centre, and they charge $11 per hour.
Well, I suppose it's better than no charger at all, but
Yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, Meriden has alternative charging just around the corner at the rec centre, which are 2 EO chargers, and they're actually free.
Oh yeah.
Technically not, but at the moment, yes.
Do you think they're going to get reconnected to the network, Joseph?
The funny thing is that when I was there, the QR code was like faded, or I mean totally washed out, because I think is because it's in an area where the sprinklers come on, and that's why one of the type 1 connectors all like green, or blue corroded, copper corroded, or even I think the type 2, because they have type 2 and type 1 cables hanging, just connected, hanging off a cable, and potentially you can plug them in if you need to, but I use my own Harold green cable thingy, which is really handy. But basically, yeah, I'm not too sure whether they're gonna. It's a bit. If you have the app as well, you can, but it's a bit hard to use the app because you can't see the code, and then you can't scan the code in, so you won't possibly able to activate the charger that via the app. And it's also only possibly voluntary anyway. So I think they've just left it as just plug and play for now.
I actually tried. I was there early this year, and did try and use the app. I presumed that it needed to use the app, and I couldn't get it to activate. So then in desperation, I just sort of unplugged it and plugged it in a couple of times, and it started working. Because I was there on a Sunday, and the problem with the visitor centre is they're only available 8:30 to 4:30 weekdays, which is pretty inconvenient.
True story. I've got a renter who wants to drive to Kalgoorlie and back, so I've got to figure all this out with her.
Oh God, that's hard. I did it in January. Which way is your renter wanting to go?
Through. I think she wants to stay at Merredin, and then I'm probably going to get her to charge at Northam, then Merredin, and then probably Southern Cross and the other place. What's it called? The little hippie place.
Oh yeah, the Cora Retreat. Yeah, right.
Apparently they're really great for people who just want to stop by the box outside.
Is your car an SR Plus or a LR?
Yes, it's only the SR Plus.
Oh, right.
That's
I
why
would
I
have
think
thought
she'll be
maybe
stopping.
that you could charge at Merredin, and if it's overnight, then it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then
go straight
pop
to
up at
Cora.
Southern Cross, and you should be able to make it from Southern Cross to Kalgoorlie.
Yeah,
but
that's
you'll
the
have
trick though. That's 225, and I don't want her to get screwed.
But you can do more than 225, surely.
Maybe. Depends on the wind and everything, right?
What's your nameplate on the S? Actually, I know the answer to that.
It's probably 48, 49 kilowatt hours usable, but like, as you know, depends on how you drive. And we already had a discussion about this because she's doing this whole trip in order to prepare a presentation for a lithium mining conference that she normally presents at. And instead of talking about lithium at the bottom of the chain, she wants to talk about electric vehicles, batteries, and the state of regional charging infrastructure. And so she told me, I want to do it myself so I can speak from first-hand experience. And I'm like, that's awesome. I think that's great. Now we've got to figure out if it's possible in my car.
Okay. So your SR Plus, in Australia, it's claimed that you can do 460 Ks.
No, that NEDC is a piece of shit.
Exactly. So now if you look at WLTP, which is the Worldwide Light Vehicle Transport Program, something like that, they claim 409, and in EPA it's 402.
So I've surveyed a lot of people now to try and get a handle on this. For metro driving, it's 350 to 380. Some people can squeeze 400.
Is that 100% or is that 90%?
That's 100, right? And then for highway driving, it's between like 200 and 250 if you're doing 110 the whole way. Yes. And I spoke to a few people who've done it recently and shared the plan with them, and they generally concur.
Matt, I would tend to agree with you there because we've just done a trip to Albany and back.
Yep. Is yours long range?
Mine's an SR Plus.
Oh, cool.
And well, I met you at the Mandurah Forum, if you remember.
Oh, yes, of course.
You were popping up on your way to Falcon.
Yeah, you were stealing all of my electrons.
No, you were stealing mine. Shut up.
All right. We'll move on.
I went down to Albany. Now, there were 4 of us in the car. I had the spare tyre from Harold. We had luggage for 4 people. It was pissing down with rain. And I would have got 250 to, well, I 250 and I was going to be running out. I could have done 270.
That's what I thought. I reckon 250 is okay and 270 is a push.
250 is safe. If you could go, and I charged it up to 100%, and if you can get somewhere within 250 kilometers, even with wind and so on, you're probably you're going to make it.
And you were doing the 110 like the whole way?
Well, not around the roads around Bridgetown down towards Albany. It was a bit hard. I tended to stick around the 100 mark, maybe down to 90. I got from
see that makes 20% difference, like at 90.
Yeah. I got from Bridgetown at it was about 99% to Albany, and I arrived with 16%. And it was raining, windy roads, surfaces were terrible. So you know, that's
good. That's really good validation for me. So that helps me out a lot. And I think that I was going to try and get her to do the 225 Ks from Southern Cross to Kalgoorlie, but I thought rather than putting her on the edge of her seat, she can just stop at
I think
Cora.
if you just stopped at the Cora place and
for a little while,
for an hour, you're going to
yeah. And
another 11
John,
kilowatts in there.
I've got John's 15 kilowatt CTEC, and she's tested that already, so she knows how to use it. So she can make the final call whether she just takes the 11 kilowatt HPWC or the 15 kilowatt CTEC if it saves her a bit of time. So I guess I will just give her all the information, and then she can then choose how risk averse she is.
I mean,
Something else you can do
as a sort of comparison, when we went up to Lancelin a couple of weeks ago, I got about 280 Ks from 100 down to, I think it was about 9% when I rolled up to the DC charger at Quellup.
And you were doing 110?
I mean, there was one particular van that was slowing us down on the way up there. But, you know, I live in Huntingdale, so it was freeway all the way up at, 100 Ks an hour. So I guess maybe the 100 to 110 is the big difference there. But that was I could easily have pushed it if I slowed down a bit to get down.
So you said 280 Ks?
Yeah.
Between 100 and 9%?
Yeah.
SR Plus as well?
Yeah. And there was two of us, and we had the heat seaters on and occasional air conditioning to keep the window unfogged.
And in parts it was pouring with rain, and
yeah,
when you're,
the whole way back it was pouring the whole time.
And that chews juice because your tires are pumping all that water, which takes energy.
At 149 watt hours per kilometre.
And Matt, I ran up and down the Kwinana Freeway and the Forest Highway a few times and averaged out both ways differences between different speeds. And the difference from 110, I was using, I don't know, let's say 178 kilowatt hours per K.
Watt hours per K.
Watt hours per K.
Yeah.
105, it was about 10 less. And 100, it was about another 6 less. It went down to about 160. So that 10 kilometers made a difference of about 10%. And then dropping it down to 90 again made a difference of about another 6 or 7%.
Yeah, I was trying to go on the rough like 180 to 185 to kind of account for the 110 and maybe a bit of headwinds, depending if she's unlucky. So that's like a worst case scenario planning number. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think that would be a worst case scenario. My worst case scenario, going down to Albany and back in the rain and wind and with 4 passengers, etc., was 195 for quite a good section. But by the time I got there, it had come down. It was about 175 for the whole journey.
The magic number for economy versus speed is the difference in speed raised to the power of 1.2. So in other words, if you're doing, say, 100 Ks an hour, and then you slow down to 90 Ks an hour, you then consume 88%, or you get 88% better range.
Okay, so it's not.
Also, you use 88% of the energy at as you would at 100.
Right.
So it's not. So for every 10%, you don't get a 10% gain. You actually get 10% raised to the power of 1.2.
Okay.
And that works scarily well.
So it's not quite squared.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And wind resistance is to the cube of speed. Rolling resistance is to the. There's all these different resistances, but it just seems to work out that on a road and a car, it's very close to the power of 1.2. So it means that the difference between doing 110 Ks an hour and say 80 Ks is massive. It's massive.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It's absolutely massive. Which
this
is
this is a conversation we won't be having in 5 years when all of the cars are like 600-700 Ks plus.
when my wife and I went to Germany last last year, and we were doing 200 kilometers an hour on autobahns. Trust me, and this is a Model S, it was burning through the juice.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Absolutely burning through it. But we didn't care because every 50 Ks there was a supercharger. So it didn't matter. But obviously we don't have that in Australia. On the Eastern Seaboard, you just do 100. Bjorn Nyland was actually working out the optimum speed to do on autobahns. And he basically worked out you can do any speed you like. It doesn't matter. 200 km an hour.
Don't you have to like factor in the total stopping time with your charging?
Yes, so he did do that. And you can do
like
over
it's like a peak in the curve or something?
Yeah, but the thing is the supercharger puts the juice in at well over 600 Ks an hour.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter.
And so when I went around Australia, I went through the minutiae of all this, trying to plan out how do I actually drive See, when you're on AC charging, the fastest way to get to a destination is to drive slower.
Yes, makes sense.
So, I mean, it gets to the point where you can even do 80 Ks an hour. If you drive 80 Ks an hour, you'll get there sooner than 90, 100, 110.
Including the stopping and charging. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes
You'll
sense.
spend more time on the road, but less time by the side of the road charging.
Or less time total.
And less time total. So
yeah.
So and you can even go as slow as 70 kilometers an hour. And because I've plotted this on Excel spreadsheets.
Who wants to be in a Tesla and like have people honking at you because you're going too slow?
True, but if you're driving,
it's embarrassing, man.
If you're driving, say, from Tennant Creek to Camberwell, which is 471 Ks,
not a lot of choice. I get it.
In a car that's rated at 380 Ks, then you'll be slowing down. And I did exactly that and made it with about 20 Ks to go, which I could have burnt, but I decided not to. I decided just to keep the same pace and
leave it as margin or something.
No, I didn't. Well, I had a phone app that I could suss out the battery pack, but that's another story. But yeah, so if you slow down, you will actually get more and more range. But yeah, so this lady doing that trip to Kalgoorlie, that'll be really interesting. And I think the most important thing she'll conclude is that it's arduous. There's nothing pleasant about it. And if there was a supercharger at Merredin and one at Southern Cross, then the experience would be vastly different. The problem would be not to stay at the deli for too long eating your ham sandwich or whatever before the supercharger says that the car's ready to go. But that's the challenge.
Yeah. It's my brother. He's got the Trimotor Cybertruck on order because he thinks that you can take this NEDC 500 plus miles and convert that to 800 kilometers, and that will help him drive from Port Hedland, where he lives, down to Perth when he wants to take his Tesla down to Perth. And I'm like, that doesn't work like that. Like, those numbers are standardized tests that average out all these conditions. And when you're on the highway and you want to do 110 the whole way, you are never going to get 800 kilometers. You might not get 600 kilometers between charges.
Yeah, I think in the Cybertruck, you'd probably have to do about 100 or possibly 95 or maybe 90 to get the 800 Ks, the full 800.
Yeah, I'm even dubious about that.
Well,
yeah.
The only thing that gives me hope is that Elon Musk is quoting that in effectively EPA figures.
That is true, yes, so, which we're lucky about that, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no doubt anyone that quotes NEDC is just lying. Well, it's not lying, it's just wrong.
It's silly,
and WLTP is better, but not as good as the EPA. I think the EPA must have higher average speeds in the way they calculate consumption. But don't forget, Australia also is probably fairly unique in that we've got that chip seal, which is the massive rocks, the blue metal, that is harder wearing in rural areas. And that's what really kills range, is that roar you hear from your tires. That's what really kills it.
So are you saying that's more energy going to like resistance and sound?
To sound, yeah. And heating your tires because it's flexing the I think they call them sipes, the actual tread blocks. Yeah, absolutely. So, and Nigel, I think you've proven this on the Forest Highway. There are sections, the Perth end of the Forest Highway, the freeway is silky smooth tarmac.
Yeah,
and then
it's that bridge down in the Murray River. When you go over there, it's like, where's all the sound gone on the way back?
Yes, exactly.
Where's
And
all the
that
sound
sound is wasted energy. That's
sure.
what kills your range. That is.
Yeah, it made a difference of about 10 watt-hours per kilometre.
Really? You measured that?
Travelling at about 90 or 100. Yeah, it was, I was astounded. And it's the difference of that, the road, the Forest Highway is rougher, higher rolling resistance compared to the Kwinana Freeway, which you hardly hear when you're travelling down it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have hoped for a premium vehicle that the sound isolation in the cabin would have been a lot better than it is.
I think Tesla's just aimed for weight over anything else. In other words, reduction of weight, and obviously sound deadening. You know, the best. I had an old Jag, and it had like tar, like it had like tar sheets put on the floor pan, but that's heavy.
Hey Matt, just another idea with your renter. Maybe you can pump her tires up to let's say 44 psi or something.
Yeah, was it you who recommended that, Joseph? I think you gave me that tip. Yeah, I've got a few tips in my little things to just optimize these little micro optimizations. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I agree, Pete, because my car is always at 50. Not that I'm recommending anyone does that, but that's the maximum cold inflate that the tires that are marked on the tires, and that's what I do my tires at.
Does that give it a greater risk of popping over a big hole?
No, I don't think. No, well, I think that's subjective.
Okay. Yeah, probably is.
It's the tire manufacturers specify the maximum inflate, and that's what the tires are designed for. The car manufacturers, especially the older cars, they were notorious for always recommending softer tires.
Yes, under pressure. That's so silly. Yeah, that's so silly. Just waste the rubber.
Look, I'm not saying that I'm right, but as an example, in November, in summer, in November, in the Northern Territory, it was like 45 degrees in the shade, and my tires were about 58 psi.
That's the thing I'd be worried about if I set them to cold 50.
Yes, but they're designed. The inflation is specified in cold inflate. It's not specified in total inflate.
So they factor that in, is what you're saying?
Absolutely, they factor that in. Yeah.
Harold, do you find that the middle of your tire wears out a little bit more as a result?
No. As Rob was saying earlier this evening, because I've got the air suspension, and it's a bit frustrating, my tires never die from wearing out from old age. They die from the insides being rubbed out because of the camber. So no, I actually hoped that by inflating them to 50, they might have a slight bulge and therefore not rub so hard on the insides, on the inside edge, but it makes no difference. Well, it doesn't seem to make any difference. That's beneficial. So no, I've heard that said, that one risk is you might effectively dish the flat part of the tire and wear the center. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Is that 50 number the one that comes with the stock Model 3 tires?
I don't know. You'll have to look at the sidewall.
Okay.
My tires, which are a different size, it's on the sidewall that says max inflate.
Okay, yeah.
50 psi. I think the Model 3s might be the same, but I just don't know. But it's clearly marked.
Did you look at my car when it was in your driveway recently?
I think they did say 50, Nigel.
I think you said it says 50.
I think
I only put mine up to 45.
Yeah, and that's totally cool. Yeah.
I think I might put mine up a couple more as well. Just get more mileage from the rubber and a bit better range.
And mind you do get a slightly harsher ride.
Sure.
Obviously, but you know,
I don't have this car to drive slow. It's all right.
And possibly a little bit less grip as well, I presume.
Probably, maybe marginally.
I don't know, and that's something I find a bit ironic is some people are really keen on really sticky tires. The thing is, our cars have millisecond traction control.
I know, right? I've tried to slip it out on a wet road around a corner, and I can't.
So I sort of get a bit of a wry smile when I hear people talking about, oh, it's a performance car, you need sticky tires, otherwise, you know, it won't work properly. And it's like, I think we could be on summer slicks on oil, and our cars would still perform fantastically. So
yeah, that's the only way that Jürgen gets the racing one to perform the way he wants, by having track mode enabled, and you can disable these things.
Yeah,
you can't turn them off. Yeah, good luck making it slide.
Exactly. Yeah,
I got the car. I took off from the lights servo on the way home, and it was raining. And as I took off, I could noticeably tell it slowed down over the white line.
Yes.
At the traffic lights. I don't think it slipped, but it slowed down because it lost traction. So
I noticed that too. When I throw it out hard and put the foot down, you can feel it like doing its magic.
Squirm. Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't slide, doesn't slip.
It did happen to be a Commodore next to me, so I had to give it a go.
I know, right?
And isn't that the irony?
You got to teach these P-platers a lesson.
And it's a lesson that's harshly learnt, because you especially see, you know, the black SS Utes, and they've got no chance. And if it's wet, they've got, you know, it's just all over.
Motorbike don't have a chance.
Yeah, I had a green SS Ute last week sit beside me revving his engine, and I didn't even try to floor it, and I left him for dead. And I wasn't even at full acceleration.
Indeed. In fact, I remember...
Up to the speed limit, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
And we'll note that for the YouTube video for those people playing at home.
The speed limit was 80, and I went to about 81, and that's it.
Now, here's a feature request that we need to have is, you know how we have TAC, which sets our maximum speed, and the car will go slower or whatever. What you need is sort of the opposite, where, well, it's similar. You need to be able to dial the maximum speed the car will do. Let's call it 60, you know, 60 zone, or 80 in an 80 zone. So you should be able to floor it, and the car will do its best to get to that speed as fast as possible, and then just stop accelerating. So literally, you know,
Isn't that what the speed limit button does? Setting does?
I think it does a warning, and I don't know if it's, you mean the actual maximum speed, like
Yeah.
Yeah, but
no, you put your foot down.
It's just a warning, and I think you're on dangerous ground if you do that, because if you're sitting behind something and you want to put your foot down to overtake, and it says, "No, I'm not going to allow you to do that," you're in stride.
I'm with you, Nigel. I don't know if that's what I would want. I'd want
no, but what you should have is a temporary setting that you can like sort of enable it as maximum, like just go maximum speed is 60 temporarily, like TAC, but a different version of TAC. So that then you can just floor it.
The cruise control, when you say, right, the lights have gone green, go, and it belts it up to 60, and then it sits there, but you can still accelerate past it if you want.
Yeah. Perhaps even like a double pedal action. So on the first press, and you keep it floored, it gets to the speed limit. If you then lift off and then reapply, it should cancel that out, and then you can go faster. So we need, Elon, we need to have like...
Call it drag mode.
Like drag mode, but drag to the speed limit, and then back, and then disengage. And then when you reapply, you can then go faster again. Because that would be awesome.
I think BMWs already have that feature whereby you have the speed limit thing, but then when you hit the speed limit, you just push it further, push the accelerator further, and then you can just blast it.
And it won't go over.
No, it will allow it to go over, but if you keep your foot like just not at 3/4 or something, it won't go over. But if you floor it, I mean, you still will be able to go over the sort of like the that limit.
It's like a two-state sensitivity in the accelerator.
Yeah.
They could call that vegan drag mode.
Well, it's kind of, it'd be interesting to work out what to call it. But it's sort of like, you're not actually hooning because you're making zero noise, zero wheel spin. Your G-forces are incredible, but you're not driving dangerously.
That's not enough. I got pulled over by a cop, and he was giving me such a hard time because he didn't have anything to go on. All I did was, he was waiting at the roundabout, and the roundabout was a 2-lane roundabout, and I was coming up. It was 60 zone. I was coming up on this little tiny car, and as the little car in the right lane entered the roundabout, I entered the roundabout and exited and overtook him. And I was in the habit of going through these roundabouts and clicking on the tack, right? So I wouldn't have gone over the speed limit, the 60. So I'm just going into the roundabout and back up to 60 real quick. And he comes around the roundabout, and I've still got the dash cam video. He comes around the roundabout, right up my butt for a few seconds, and then he goes into the right lane, and then I count to like 3 seconds in the right lane, and he puts his lights on. And so the short version of the story, he's essentially harassing me when he's talking to me. And I should have got my phone out and recorded the conversation, but I went back to the video afterwards because I was just shaken. I couldn't like defend myself on the spot. But he was bullying me essentially, and I hadn't done anything wrong. And he found my driver's license, and he's telling me about all of the speeding infringements I got when I was really, really young. And I was like, what, in 20 something years? Is that how long you've looked back to tell me that I'm a bad driver? It's like, you've got a speeding problem. I'm like, I don't have a speeding problem. And so the best I can go on was that he didn't have the laser on, because had he done that, as you know, if you've been pulled over, the first thing they say is you were doing XYZ in the XYZ zone. So he didn't tell me that. At no point during the heated conversation did he go and read off the machine. So all he'd done was a manual check when he was lined up against me, which would have said 60. And he was using that as his basis for giving me a hard time. And I was really pissed. I called my girlfriend afterwards, and I was like, I wish I recorded it, because I'd submit this as a complaint. This guy was just behaving badly.
The problem is your car probably looked like if your car was a Commodore.
That's what I'm saying. It would have looked like it was hooning.
It would have had blue smoke coming off the tires, would have been squealing, and the exhaust would have been barking.
Yeah.
With the same visual look.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with the visual look, pulling out of the roundabout quickly.
So hence, we do want this thing that Tesla does, which is, whatever you want to call it, vegan drag mode, which is maximum acceleration, no wheel spin, no noise, to the speed limit.
It didn't stop him from pulling me over and giving me a hard time.
Yeah.
Let's face it, you pissed him off.
I guess so.
You dragged him off.
Human factors, that's the thing. You're dealing with human beings.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently as long as your wheels don't spin, you can accelerate as fast as you want, as long as you're still under the speed limit. It's completely legal to go as fast as you want, as long as there's no wheel spin.
I believe so. There's no law that. Sorry, Nigel.
No, I was going to say, as soon as you get wheel spin, you are then not in control of your vehicle, and they can do you. But without wheel spin, you're still demonstrating control of the vehicle.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. On the flip side, when I had my motorbike license years ago, I failed it the first time because I locked up the rear wheel in the emergency brake, even though I still stopped within the distance that I needed to, because I was not in control of the bike.
So the pro tip there is, don't use your back brake on the emergency stop.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you're right, Pete, because there is no legislation that says it's illegal to exceed 1.2 Gs in a vehicle.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what our cars can do. Well, more than 1.2 Gs, I think.
Yeah.
You see those classic YouTube videos where the guy throws a chip or something, or twisty or whatever it is, a lolly or whatever. He throws it up in the front part of the car, accelerates the car. The twisty is free falling upwards and then down, but it then goes into the mouth of the guy in the back row. Like, you
haven't seen that.
I want to see that.
Might have to try that now.
That could be dangerous.
I'd love to do that. Yes.
My grandkids, when they're in the car with me, always say, "Make it go fast." And well, I'm going to try that now. Catch this lolly.
And
I can see the back
kids-
seat covered in lollies and chips now.
My kids call it hyperspace. They're like hyperspace data, hyperdrive, or whatever it's called.
I mean, that's why Elon Musk says it's not really a car. It's just a thing of enjoyment. Like they're just awesome.
So who's going to be the first person to give us all a ride in a Roadster Gen 2? Who's going to buy one of those?
Hey.
Someone's going to get one, right? And we're all going to get a go in it.
Actually,
we should all put in money. If no one in WA is going to have one for a while, we should all chip in and have like a Tesla, a Tokwa communal Roadster.
Timeshare.
Actually, I think there is one Roadster. There are actually a couple of Roadsters coming to Perth.
Gen 2?
Yep.
Wow.
So you actually know people who've ordered one. That's what I'm saying. So if they're in the
There are two. There is one person that's getting it themselves, and there are a couple of people doing it together.
Nice.
So there will absolutely be Gen 2 Roadsters in Perth.
But like in some of the owners groups that we know?
Yes.
Oh, so it's not unlikely that...
I don't want to name them on YouTube.
Yeah, they should do that themselves, but we'll probably get to have a go, at least a ride.
Oh, you'll probably get a ride. You won't.
Because that's what I've told my kids. All right.
I think that's an idea for a club event. I think.
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee you that there'll be rides in a plaid Cybertruck. That's not quite a Roadster, but
it's splitting hairs when you're kind of getting to the bottom of 2 seconds, right?
Tell these people to put their Gen 2s on EV.
No, there's I actually talked to Slava about this soon after listing my car. There is no one who's insuring a car like for rental like that. There is no one in Australia who'll insure that.
Hey Harold, a quick question. Those two that are coming into WA, are they the founders versions? Do you know, with the SpaceX package or?
No, the SpaceX wasn't done at the time of ordering. I think it's one of each. I think one is founders, so they had to cough up 250 US.
Yeah, the full price or something.
With a 50 grand deposit US.
No, I think the standard Roadster was 50k deposit.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's the founders one. You have to put all the money up front.
Yes, and the founders was 250 US.
Up front.
I'm not entirely. Yeah, I think it might be one of each, or it might just be two of the cheap ones.
Hey, but those of us who have stock will be able to afford it, so we're good.
Yeah, I was just looking. I was just looking at the live Tesla price.
Yeah. Don't start that. Those that haven't got it yet are crying.
And it's
still just buy it, man.
$1,500. It's down $13. So it's $1,503 US.
If there's only 10x left in it, you'll be fine. And I say only, like with emphasis.
10x would be lovely.
I think 10x is conservative these days.
10x,
but that's not investment advice.
No, 10x takes that to 2.79 trillion US dollars. Yeah, that'd be nice.
You think that's unreasonable?
Would be okay. But yeah,
Google did like 25x in 10 years, and like Apple did like 120x like before their iPhone was out. So like these numbers are not unheard of.
Well, Tesla's already done. Tesla has to date done 88x since their IPO.
Yeah, okay.
Because they IPO'd at $17 US.
Yeah.
And at 1,500, they're now 88 times.
Yeah.
But then don't forget, you hear the stories about Apple. If you had, rather than buying an Apple computer, the first one, it was just the Apple computer. If you, instead of buying that computer, you had actually just bought that value in shares at the time, you'd be a multi-dozen millionaire.
Well, I have a Macintosh 128. It's in its box. And to keep that box good, I put that box in another box. So I'd very happily trade that thing out there in the other room for 1985 Apple stock.
Yes, at the same prices. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, exactly. So,
you can have a go at my Roadster.
but yeah, so look, hopefully the Roadsters will come in a few years, and there will be a couple of Roadsters in Perth, absolutely. But you know,
very cool.
For those that can't ride in a Roadster, there'll be Cybertrucks galore, and you know, a plaid Cybertruck with 0 to 100 in less than 2.9 seconds will still feel roadsterish. You know, with 6 people in the car.
It's the cold gas thrusters that I'd love to see in action.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But you know that's only going to be on the track, because can you imagine the noise?
Oh yeah.
That supersonic, high pressure. You know, I don't know. Even would it be? It'd be more than hundreds of bar. It's probably 1,000 bar.
He mentioned it, 1,500, I think. He mentioned it in a tweet. Yeah.
1,500. Wow.
Something like that.
Yeah.
What did he say? He'd replace the back seats with the
carbon,
carbon overwrapped things.
COPVs.
Yeah.
Carbon overwrapped.
Overwrapped pressure vessel. Yeah.
We've got a liquid nitrogen tank at work, and it's had a few issues. And when the safety valve goes off, it dumps a bunch of gas, not liquid, but just that sounds like an engine brake on a massive truck. Like, and I'm inside the building. It's just ridiculous, and that's not that very high pressure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. They'll probably be all of these like buttons you got to press to say, you know, this is probably not legal in your jurisdiction. I want my mummy, stuff like that.
Have you got your brown underwear on?
Exactly.
I do love that Elon Musk, he literally asks the question, is it physically possible in the laws of physics? And
they reckon around the 1.8, 1.9 seconds mark, you kind of hitting the top of that curve for physical traction. So that's why you need something else to move the car, because the physical traction afforded by the surface isn't sufficient.
That's right, unless you had a road that was made of like a rack of gears.
Yeah.
Wheels were made of pinions.
Well, that's what they do at the drag strip. They put all that goop on the road, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you can basically confine the car and have sprockets engaging in this sort of artificial road, yeah, that's right. It's a limit of friction.
It's physics, mate.
It's physics. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the power is. It could be a megawatt of electrical power. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
but we see that all the time, right? Even some of these, what is it, Dodge, the Hellcat, something, like they've got way more brake horsepower than the Model S, and they just can't, the wheels can't stick to the road.
Yeah.
I think it's only the computer that keeps the traction there.
And that's the beauty of electric motors, is you can control their power within milliseconds.
Yeah.
Whereas an internal combustion engine that's only firing, I don't know, is it a dozen milliseconds, a cycle or whatever it is? You just can't moderate that energy.
That power, yeah.
Yeah, you just can't. Oh, sorry, the power, yes. You see, you just can't do it.
The leg's too long.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Well, maybe at 11:45.
Time to go.
Yeah, it's probably.
Yeah. Because anyone watching this on YouTube is probably going, "Wow, it's nearly the 3-hour mark, and we're kind of getting nice and sleepy and tired."
Yeah.
So, is this live streaming? Is it?
Oh no, just recording. So what I do is it's just not live streaming, recording. So if anything drastic came out that I have to like snip out, I'd do that, but I haven't had to yet. And then I just put it on YouTube probably mid-morning tomorrow, just for people to catch up, because we've had quite a few members that enjoy watching these videos later on because they can't join in.
Is that your own channel or?
Yeah, Tokwa's. Yeah, we've got our own. If you just
search Tokwa YouTube channel, is it? Okay.
Yeah, if you just search Tokwa on YouTube, and it's actually I've been a bit slack. I should really be sending out an email about it. We've also got pro tips, little videos, with the dulcet tones of yours truly, which is enough to get anyone off to sleep. But it's just a few pro tips on charging and different other things. How to send a navigation destination via your phone to your car and stuff like that. Yeah, so we put these Ask Us Anythings on every week. Yeah, and we're just going to keep doing it, basically putting out content so people can refer to it later. But like I said, yeah, if anything controversial came out or whatever, I just snip that off, obviously. Yeah, and you can obviously see the little recording symbol in the top left of your screen on the Zoom screen.
Yep. Oh, right.
So there you go.
With enhanced encryption, not just regular encryption. Enhanced.
Oh, is it? Oh, I think that's Zoom reacting to
the green thing.
When they became very popular, then everyone goes, "Oh, what about this and what about that?" And they had to kind of address those issues because people thought, they weren't that secure.
Well, thank you, everybody. I'm heading off. Have a good night.
No worries, mate.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Have a good evening.
Take
Catch
care.
you next
guys.
week.
Next week.
See ya.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.